Well, if we're gonna find any ghosts, we better split up.
You're listening to Never Split Up, a horror movie podcast.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie.
Hello, and welcome everybody to the Never Split Up podcast. My name's Nolan, along with my co-host Anthony, and today is our 40th episode, and we are covering a huge movie. This is the OG Halloween, released in 1978. How you doing today, Ant?
I'm doing good. We are so close to Halloween, so I'm thriving right now. Really thriving. Perfect weather here.
October always flies by way too quick. This season always goes by way too quick for me. I can't believe we're a week away. We're recording this on a Monday, so we're pretty much a week away from Halloween. It's it's a little sad as it gets closer, but I also get so pumped. But I always think about like when it's over, like how depressing it is, because now we got Christmas season and I just wait for Halloween again. So yeah, I am super pumped for the holiday. I'm super pumped for this episode. I've been looking forward to this episode pretty much since we started this podcast. We pretty much decided that we were going to wait until the Halloween season to cover this. And since we started this podcast in November of last year, we had to wait pretty much a full year to get to this. So, but here we are. We've made it. We have this episode and we have another huge episode for you guys next week that's going to be releasing on Halloween Day. Do you want to talk about that real quick before we get into this episode?
Yes, so for the rest of this month leading up to Halloween, we're in pure Halloween franchise mode. We're covering the OG today, and then next week we are going to do a franchise ranking, which is just going to be so hard to do, but we're going to bring our guest on, Phil from Filth the Movie, so we're going to have 3 rankings. We're going to go and discuss and debate each other's rankings, in a professional way, but it's going to get heated and we're going to have a blast, and it's going to release on Halloween. So that'll be a nice little treat for you guys after you go out partying or trick-or-treating with the kids. Get cozy, crack open a drink, and watch us debate the franchise and rank it. That'll be fun.
For sure, it's going to be a huge episode. There's 13 movies that we all have to rank. Like you said, Phil's going to be on, so it's going to be 3 different rankings. We know that Phil adores this franchise just as much as us. That's why we wanted to have him on. So you say it's going to be heated. I think it's going to be passionate. I think the word is going to be. Yeah. But I don't think it's going to get too heated because we all love this franchise so much. So, like even my least favorite Halloween movie is still, I still love watching it. So, you know, it's going to be a fun time. But I can't wait for that. That's going to be 1 week. On Halloween.
From tomorrow. Yeah.
Yep, 1 week from tomorrow. But for now, we are releasing this one on the 25th. So yes, it'll be less than a week till Halloween. But why don't we get into it? So you want to announce the poll winner from our Friday the 13th episode? That was a couple episodes ago. Thanks everyone for voting, and we got some decent listens on that. We got some good analytics on that, so I think everyone was in the spirit of the holiday that week and the week after. So thanks everyone for listening. I thought that was a really fun episode. So check that out if you haven't already. We covered the OG Friday the 13th. I believe we tied though, right?
We did. We tied that episode. So that's, we don't have that happen so often. So that's interesting that we tied. So we'll just figure, once we get to the end of the episode, we'll figure out. It doesn't not a big deal who goes first, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, for sure. Those were 2 great moments that we both picked, so not surprising that we tied. So thanks everyone for voting. And I think that's it in terms of housekeeping. You don't have any other announcements or anything, right?
No, I think that's it. If you guys can keep going and subscribing, we're seeing a couple subscribers, every week. It's starting to pick up a little bit, so that's much appreciated. Share the episodes. Yeah, just about it. Let us know what you think about the last couple episodes and what you want us to cover after the Halloween season, because we don't really have a plan for after spooky season yet, so any ideas would be welcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Okay, awesome. Let's get into it. I guess we'll do what we normally do. Do you want to go over the cast and crew first, and then we'll get into, I guess,
Sure.
our overall thoughts?
This is so. This is gonna be. Whew. All right. So, not that you guys don't know the premise of Halloween, but the premise is 15 years after murdering his sister on Halloween night in 1963, Michael Myers escapes from a mental hospital and returns to the small town of Haddonfield, Illinois, to kill again. It came out in 1978, like Nolan said. It was the most profitable independent movie until Blair Witch Project came around 21 years later. It's very impressive. Directed by John Carpenter, the legend, the man, John Carpenter. One of my top 2 favorite directors of all time. And it was written by John Carpenter and the lovely Deborah Hill, who deserves a separate shout out. We'll get to her when we get into it. It was also, the music was composed by John Carpenter. This is his baby, man. This is his baby. But it stars the iconic Donald Pleasance as Dr. Sam Loomis and introduces our horror icon, our horror scream queen, the scream queen, Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode. Those are the 2 biggies in this movie. And we have the cast of the supporting character, obviously the victims. We have PJ Souls as Linda, who's also an icon in her own right. She's in Carrie. She's in a bunch of good stuff. We have Kyle Richards. She plays Lindsay Wallace. We'll see her in the franchise. We'll talk about her next week a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
We have a great cast of supporting characters. I love the supporting cast. I love her friends. Everything about this movie is memorable. So yeah, that's the cast. It's a very small crew though, which is why this movie is so special. It's not a huge, extravagant production, which is obviously why this movie is awesome. Simple but effective.
Yeah, there you go. Who do you want to go first? I'll let you decide.
Are we doing like the recommendation part right now?
I think that's not necessary. So
Okay.
just a quick disclaimer before we get into this movie. We both talked off camera before we started recording that we would take a more, I guess, direct approach into how this movie was made and all the filming techniques, because everyone knows by now that we both love this movie so much. It's your favorite movie of all time. It's my favorite horror movie of all time. So, we could gush about this movie, about why we fanboy over it for 2 hours, but I think we both agreed that we're going to take more of a practical approach to like what makes this movie so good. So obviously we both recommend it. I guess my overall thoughts are that I love this movie, period. And let's get into it. No, I'm just kidding. It's funny because I was thinking a lot about this movie, obviously, this week leading up to this episode. And I have an analogy that, when you love, like really, really, really love your favorite, like one of your favorite albums from an artist, and you listen to that album so many times over the years, at least for me, my favorite song always changes within that album because every song is so great, and I have my favorites depending on when you ask me. This is how I feel about the original Halloween movie. Every so often, I find something new, or maybe something that's not new that I used to love, and I love it again. And this time around, I just love Loomis so much. He's like my favorite parts of this movie now, but in a couple years, I'll love something else about this movie. But I love it all equally, but I just kind of pick my favorite every time I watch it. And it's just so beautiful because they do so much right with this movie that it's hard to focus on everything at once. So I kind of focus on different things, if that makes sense. Kind of like different songs in an album that you love. They don't make movies like this anymore, dude. It's so simple. Like you just said, the cast is so small. The plot is so straightforward. There isn't a ton of subplot. And I think that really allows Carpenter to really, maximize the scenes and the shots and the atmosphere and really take his time with everything, because he doesn't have to worry about this convoluted plot of fitting everything in. He can really just take his time. And I think that really pays off. I mean, obviously, the atmosphere of this movie is just unmatched. Laurie being stalked all movie from the get-go is awesome because you don't really get that typical, especially in horror movies, you get like the character's normal life going on at first, and then they kind of get into the horror aspects. That's there pretty much from the get-go. You have Michael stalking Laurie during her normal routine. So it kind of makes you instantly fall for Laurie, if that makes sense. Like your senses are heightened for Laurie from the get-go. So even though she's, talking with her friends, on the sidewalk and stuff and going about her daily life, you're feeling for her almost instantly. At least I am. And it's really tough because we've seen this movie, hundreds and hundreds of times. So of course we're going to feel for her right off the bat. But I feel like even if I didn't see this movie so many times, I would still feel that way. But this movie's great. I'm really excited to talk about, what Carpenter did in directing this movie and how brilliant the script is. Like you said, shout out to Deborah Hill. We'll talk about her. All the cast, holds up their end. You didn't say Nick Castle as Michael Myers is fucking legendary.
Well, yeah, I wanted to. We have to. Yeah.
Yeah, he'll get a special segment. Yeah, his movements are just so fucking perfect. This is my favorite horror movie of all time. So. That's pretty much my overall thoughts.
I know, it's so hard, man. Echo everything you said. I mean, this movie is perfect. It's a masterpiece. It's just one of the most influential, if not the most influential horror movie of all time. I mean, how many movies have tried to be Halloween? And today, it still gets homage to homage after homage and so many things, even non-horror. It's just every day, I see something, oh, that's an homage to Halloween. That's Halloween. It's throwback to Halloween. This movie is just, every shot is just perfect. Every single shot of this movie is perfect. There is no fat on this movie. There's nothing to trim. So like you said, Carpenter just makes every scene count. And because it's simple, he just maximizes every shot. And it's just like a thing of beauty. Every time it switches to the next scene, I'm like, this is just gorgeous. It's so effective. It's beautiful. I mean, we're introduced to some of my favorite characters in film history with Laurie Strode and Dr. Loomis. I mean, talk about icons of the horror genre. They're the greats. You have all these slash movies where you don't even remember, like, you just really remember the final girl and the villain. But in this one, how many times, like, I know Annie Brackett's name and I know Linda. Like, that can't say that for many other horror movies with the sidekicks. And, they're typical, this movie created a lot of the stereotypes of the slasher genre, but even though they are, like the slutty, best friends and not like the good-natured Laurie, I'm still like rooting for them to make it out alive too. They're just the vibe of them together, which is really where I think Deborah Hill deserves a shout out because she helped John Carpenter write this. She co-wrote this with him. I don't think that female trio friendship would feel as natural without her touch. And Jamie Lee Curtis has said that on record that Deborah Hill was a huge component of that friendship and of making Laurie feel like an actual high school girl, because Jamie Lee Curtis wasn't like that when she wasn't that vibe. She wasn't the innocent girl. She said, she was playing Laurie, but Deborah Hill and her really connected to bring that character to life. And now she's one of, if not the most recognizable female faces in the horror genre. I mean, Laurie Strode is the icon. I mean, she's huge. Man, I mean, the score is, in my opinion, the best score in cinema history with John Carpenter. I just don't even know. Every time we have the shaped stalks, the Halloween theme, Laurie's theme. Like, I just love putting in my earbuds and taking the dogs for a walk when the leaves are blowing and just listening to Laurie's theme with the leaves blowing around the ground. I do that all the time. It's just iconic. I mean, I think it is John Carpenter's movie because everything that works is because of his direction, his writing, and his score. Obviously, the acting, like Dr. Loomis and Laurie Strode, they are amazing, and this is what made them huge and popular, but it's because of John Carpenter directing them and making sure they were the ones in the role. It's my favorite movie of all time, man. I mean, it's just, every shot is just something that every time I watch it, I'm like, damn, this is perfect. I was watching my 4K, I'm like, the friggin' cinematography is just on another level in this movie, and it was so low budget. It's just, Dean Cundey, he did the cinematography of this and the Halloween 2, and they're the my favorite 2-shot movies in the franchise, besides one other, which we'll get to next week. But, dude, this movie is just, I don't even know what to say about it because it's beautiful. It's perfection. Michael Myers is the icon. If you guys watched our villains episode, he's both of our favorite horror villains. He's an icon. And even if he was just in this movie when he's the shape, this is the myth, he's the shape, we don't know. Like, he's just a presence. He's terrifying in this movie. This is the scariest he's ever been because we don't know why he's doing what he's doing or what he is. And that's, again, why I love this movie, because nothing's explained. It's just simple but effective. Yeah, man, it's perfect. When is the first time you watched this movie? What was your experience? Do you remember?
No.
Oh, you don't?
I have
remember
no,
vividly.
I was so young. I do
me too.
not. I've talked about this. I don't have a great memory, especially going back that far. So I have like a collective experience of watching this movie probably over many years when I was, 6, 7, 8 years old, 5 years old, whenever I first watched it. And I remember how this movie made me feel in general, but I don't remember specifically the first time watching this movie. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't have that in the recesses of my brain. I guess you do.
Okay.
Is that what
I do.
Really?
Yeah, I was just curious. I want to know. Yes, I think I was like around 6 when I first saw this movie.
Yeah.
And it was when my mom was having one of those, I don't know, like neighborhood like demonstration parties. She was having like all the women over.
Yeah.
And I think it was like a fall night. And my dad's like, do you know who Michael Myers is? I'm like, no, who's Michael Myers? So we went to the video store like you had to do back in the day. And we rented the OG Halloween. And I remember watching it upstairs in my sister's bedroom. And I kept saying, oh my God, I have to go to the bathroom like every 5 minutes because it scared me. It was so scary. But then I also was like mesmerized by it at the same time. So I was like, oh, I got to go check out mom downstairs. And I was going in and out. But then I just fell in love with it. And every time we went to the video store after that, I was like, we have to rent Halloween. To the point where the people were like, you rented this like 10 times in a row. Do you want to just like buy it or like switch over to another movie? So obviously after that, my mom was like, let's check this new one out, Scream. So then, hand in hand with those two. But yeah, I could not get enough of this movie. As a 6-year-old, I fell in love with it right away. So it's been my favorite movie for most of my life. It's just a classic. I love it so much. And this is going to be interesting to get into this episode. But yeah, overall thoughts is this is my favorite movie of all time, and it always will be. It's perfect.
That's awesome that you have that specific memory with your dad. That is so cool. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, this is his favorite horror franchise too. So it's like special for us and the family. We all love Halloween. Awesome. I took them to see the new trilogy, opening night over the last 5 years with that new trilogy, and they all had a blast with that too.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Cool. Okay. Yeah, pretty much sums it up. Now let's kind of, let's dive into what makes this movie tick, I guess.
Yeah. It ticks.
Yeah. So, yeah, but just commenting real quick on like a couple things you said, or one thing you said, how there's no fat in this movie. There's no time for a bathroom break in this movie. There's no time to look at your phone. Like, you go from one scene and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, that scene was iconic. Oh wait, now there's this iconic scene. Oh shit, now there's this like every scene is so just ingrained in like almost like pretty much history, like horror history. I can't imagine
literally, yeah.
I can't imagine a world where this movie wasn't made. I mean, this movie, we've talked about it so many times, but it's hard to really state the importance that this had on the slasher genre in the 80s. That wave of slashers. It's all because not only was this movie good, it was perfect. It was the quintessential movie. So, yeah, it's just so influential. It's so great, and it's almost like when things are this beloved and this widely loved, it's almost like is it like this for you? For me, it's weird to kind of think that like someone like this movie didn't exist before 1978. Like, to me, it's always existed. And like, how did someone create this movie? Like, someone created all of these tropes on his own. Him and Deborah Hill, they created all of these iconic scenes. And it's like just so weird to me in a way. It's almost like John Carpenter is like larger than life because of it. It's like, wow, there's a guy who did all this. And like, it's so part of our society now that it like doesn't feel real, but this was just an independent movie that came out in 1978, and as they say, the rest is history. But yeah, it's It's pretty special. So
It's the most special movie ever made, in my opinion.
yeah.
Dude, and can I just say that this is how today we get a lot of people having no patience. So the slash movies are like, you have to have like a kill or something happen every 5 minutes. This is the perfect example of a slow burn, but nothing is wasted. Even in the first hour of the movie, it just builds and builds, but it's not boring because there's creepy and suspenseful scenes happen. You're just waiting. You're like waiting and waiting for that moment for Laurie to cross that street, and you're just screaming at the TV every time, don't go in there. Don't go in there, Laurie. It's just a perfect use of building suspense. This is one of the best movies. It's just amazing. It's suspenseful to no end, and I love it.
50 years later, almost.
Yep.
Yeah.
45 years later.
I respect movie opinions and people that, even don't have this movie like as their favorite, of course, but like I've heard this a couple times from people that are in my life that this movie is boring, and they're just wrong. Like, I know it's supposed to be an opinion, but in this case they're just not right. Like, it's like, I'm sorry.
But dude, you wouldn't feel the way you do and care about Laurie walking across that street if you didn't have the whole buildup of the first hour and 10 minutes. You wouldn't be on the edge of your seat like that. So I disagree with that critique. It's perfectly paced. It's a perfectly paced
movie.
movie.
I love what you said. You've said in previous episodes. I believe when we were talking about our villains, when we were talking about Michael Myers. You feel his presence in every single fucking shot of this movie. Right. Every shot, no matter where you are in Haddonfield, you're looking in the background. You're hearing the music cues, and you're like, he's somewhere. It's just, it's so good. Yeah.
Dude, whoever thought breathing could be so terrifying? You don't know where that fucker is, but you hear him breathing, and you see him behind that tree. It's just, dude.
Yeah.
It's chef's kiss, everything about this movie. The night he came home. He fucking came home this Halloween night, 1978.
Okay, well, here we go. So, spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen this movie.
You haven't seen it, then you're missing out on life.
Yeah. So, what do you think of this whole opening sequence? Young Michael, Judith, and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It's my second favorite opening scene of all time. Everybody knows what my first is, but this is my second. It's iconic. That POV shot of him walking around the house. You don't know for sure who it is, but you get the little glimpses of his sister Judith in the house with the boy. And he was like, "Oh, where's Michael?" She's like, "Oh, somewhere around here." And you just get the little hints. You get little hints, and you realize eventually, at a certain point, it's him walking around the house. And then they have like the quickest quickie in like all of history. Which cracks me up before the boyfriend leaves.
Judith.
But
I know.
Yeah. She's like, "Call me." I'm like, "Girl, you can do better than that."
Can I just say that? How does Judith not know that Michael is like outside? I presume trick or treating. Like, she's like, "Oh, he's around here somewhere." It's like, no, he's not even in the house, Judith. Like, can you watch your brother?
But this is what kicked off the POV shot craze in these slashers, and it's the opening. It's perfect. I love when he slides the mask on. He grabs a knife. You don't even see a body. It's scary. Because you don't know who. I mean, we know now, but you don't know who is behind that mask. And I just love the reveal when the parents come home and you just zoom out and it's a kid. It's little Michael Myers, 6-year-old Michael Myers. And I love the scene I love how Michael. This is also what he does different from other killers. He waits for the boyfriend to leave instead of just bombarding and killing them both because he wants to focus his prey. He wants that stalk of his victim. His specific female victim, in this case, his sister. And I just think it's extra eerie that he's like meticulous and he waits for him to leave and then he creeps through the house and stalks up the stairs.
That's an interesting point. So you believe that Michael couldn't have assumed that it was going to be the quickest quickie of all time? Like, do you think he would have? Do you think he would have waited? Because he had already grabbed the knife when they were upstairs and he was walking towards the staircase when her boyfriend. What's his name? I always. Do we have a name?
I think he does, but I just don't. I just know Judith remember. Myers. That's like the iconic name of the opening. Yeah.
He's already kind of on his way. So you think that he would have waited?
Yeah. Yes.
Interesting. Okay. It was just kind of good timing that he left. Yeah.
Yes. His prey, his focus was on Judith.
Yeah.
And I think it makes it scarier, actually, in my opinion.
And it's funny you say the whole you don't know who it is. I tend to forget that because I always know it's Kid Michael.
Right.
Like it's been a part of my life for so long.
Right.
So it's an interesting that you point that out. That you technically don't know who it is until they reveal it at the end.
It's shot so well that you don't know if it. Yeah.
Talk about shot so well. I know people make fun of this, but I think it's just so fucking awesome. The no-look stabbing when it pans the camera to the knife and he's not even looking at Judith and he's still stabbing her. It's so fucking creepy. I
think it makes it more eerie instead of just seeing it, straightforward.
Yeah.
It's unique. That's everything about this is unique.
As unique as this opening sequence is, I love the end of it when they have that zoom out where everyone's kind of frozen in time. It's like almost like a diorama you're watching.
Yeah.
It's so
frame,
cool.
But not. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the mom's face, how annoyed she looks when she puts her hands in her pocket. She just looks so like, what did you do, Michael?
Right.
Like, you literally got a bloody knife. Like, yeah, like.
But I will say, shout out, I wish I had his name. I've seen him at conventions. Michael Myers, his reaction when they pull back, his facial expression, it's so iconic. I mean, I have it tattooed on me.
Yeah, because his dad pulls his mask off, right? He's just standing there, and then you get his face,
It's just an iconic shot. Will Sandon, it's great. It's a great shot. I love it. And I just love how it cuts to black, and then we get, October 30th, 1970, you open with the rain. It's just beautiful, beautiful. Obviously, before we even got to the opening scene, just the opening credits alone are masterful.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about that. I'm glad you went.
Theme.
I'm glad you went back to that because you're a guy who loves opening credits. You've said this before.
Yes.
I'm not really a big opening credits guy, except for this movie. This movie, I never skip the opening credits for this movie. It's just it's like a buffer that puts you in the right mind frame to get into the movie. And it like kind of cleanses your brain and what you're experiencing in your daily life, and it like puts you in that mood, and it's so fucking perfect. It's not too long, it's not too short. The vibes are perfect, and this is the best credits of all time. The opening credits for me of all time,
and it's one of the only ones in the franchise, I think, besides Halloween 4, where the opening credits play before the opening scene. All the other movies, you have the opening scene, and then which I love how they made that change, obviously. But it's just something about the original opening with that theme and the pumpkin, the jack-o'-lantern, which is iconic. But most other sequels, they have their opening scene, and then it transitions into the credits. Which, funny enough, is the same thing with Scream. The original Scream is the only one that opened with the title card, and then went to the opening scene, and then the rest of the sequels did it after the opening scene. So...
Okay, well, no surprise, we both love the opening scene. Let's get to the next part that we probably both love.
Yes. Every shot of this movie I'm in love with.
Yeah.
But this is creepy. Talk about eerie. And talk about well-directed. Let's get to this sequence. Let's get to it.
I love Loomis. And from the first scene, he is steadfast, man. Like, he does not waver. You know instantly that Loomis does not even... He doesn't even consider him a human being. I mean, he calls him...
He says that line.
He says it, and she's like, don't you mean he? And
if you say so.
If you say, Like, I sometimes I forget, like, how off the bat fucking, like, ruthless Loomis is towards Michael Myers. Like, it's, like, from the first scene he's in this entire franchise, he does not waver. Like, he is pure evil. And he needs to be dealt with. And since he's not being dealt with, I'm going to oversee this. So, nothing bad happens. Unfortunately, that's not the case. It's a little inevitable. But, I love the when they pull up. And she's like, do they normally let him out wandering about? Like, lady, like, come on. Like, it's the middle of the night. It's like pouring rain out. And they're out in the front lawn. Like, how stupid can you be? I love that line. It's so fucking perfect, though. It's so great.
It's so creepy and eerie just seeing them walk around.
Marion? Marion, yeah. Sorry, I'm so bad with names. I have the cast pulled
Nancy
up.
Stevens. Nancy Stevens. She's great too. And that one scene she has, she makes it count in this scene.
And she makes a return.
Comes back in
to
Halloween too.
Yes,
a couple times.
But
I love them. I love even the way they vibe off each other. And this it's like a very natural conversation. Just like Dr. Loomis should get right in that moment. You're like, this dude knows his shit.
He's all business.
He knows. He's all business. He's excellent at his job, which I love a hustler who's like takes their shit seriously. And he knows, that throughout the movie, he's going to be the go-to. He really knows what should happen with Michael Myers. He's going to be the one fighting to get this shit taken care of. It's iconic. Yeah, dude, I love this shot. And I love when they see it, when it starts thundering and raining and you see him walking around, the theme kicks in again. It's just, It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfect. It's perfect. It's perfect. And I love how, I mean, when he gets out of that car, Dr. Loomis gets out of that car, that fucking Nurse Marion Chambers, she's in for it once he gets out of that car.
Mm-hmm. But doesn't die.
I love this shot.
Doesn't die.
No,
this could have been,
again, another
like you
unique
said,
choice.
this could have been a quick kill to kind of set the tone,
Right.
but she doesn't die. Yeah.
It just builds.
Yep.
Do you like this scene when he hops on the car? I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
I used to not really care for it as much. Now I love
Okay.
it. This actually used to be probably like, if I had to pick a least favorite sequence, I'm talking about like years ago. Now I just appreciate it like with the rest of the movie. But yeah, I always called it like Spider Monkey Michael in this scene, how he just like
But again,
pops
he
on the
fucks
roof
with
so
her.
effortlessly. Yeah, I know.
He doesn't just go right to get in the car. He fucks with her a little bit. He likes he likes to play
yeah.
his tricks. I love it. It's just that's what makes Michael Michael, and you get that right in that scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good when he smashes that window. Oh, he's like, I want to scare the shit out of you, and then I want to
Yeah.
take your car.
I think it's an important scene too. I don't. This obviously wasn't intentional, especially now that we have a huge franchise of Michael being the character that we know he is. He's a very stoic, never runs, obviously never speaks. He's just this larger than life villain that just kind of stalks. But I like how they show him as more of a nimble guy right off the bat, because it does show
Like an
that,
actual
like,
human, you mean?
yeah, no, like he can run if he wanted to, and he can be quick, and he is quick off screen. I mean, you see at the end of this movie, he's got some pretty quick moves to evade Loomis and get off the lawn and stuff. So I mean, he is capable of that, but because we're the viewer and we're usually watching it through, the final girl's POV or whatever, like you don't see that, but he's capable of it. So I think subliminally it kind of sets that up, that like, even though he takes his time and he walks, like at any moment he could be anywhere. And I think
Agreed.
that's why I kind of appreciate this scene a little bit more now.
And also to that point, he moves quick and he like hops off the roof of that car, and he does a little trot. He gets in, he does a little run to the car, but he chooses to walk, which makes it even scarier.
Yes.
Because he's like, I'm going to catch up to you no matter what. I don't have to fucking run. I'll get you. And I think that's terrifying, watching him do that walk, then sprint to his victim. Because he's like, I'm not worried about it. I'm going to get my prey. That's scary. I believe
Loomis calls him inhumanly patient. That's the one quote he uses with Sheriff Brackett. That's just such
scary.
Perfect... Oh yeah, that's I know.
It's terrifying.
Yeah,
it's so good. Yeah, but that's an A+ shot. I mean, when you have a scene with thunder and rain and mental patients walk around, you're gonna get me. You're gonna get me in my feels, and it was just perfectly directed. I talk about every shot, but that specific scene, and I could tell that was probably hard to do with the budget they had, and he killed it. Carpenter killed it.
Mm-hmm. Then we get to our final girl. We get to Lori, going about her day. She's on her way to school. I love this. It sets up Haddonfield so perfectly. Like you said, there's no fat on this movie, and this movie is about an hour and a half, and they do everything and they set everything up so quickly with such key shots. I love Haddonfield, and I fall in love with this town every time I watch this movie. It's so open and airy. Across the street you have the park from her house, and you have the wide streets, the super wide streets. It kind of just... I've seen this movie so many times, so I think about it, but even subliminally, it kind of just puts you in that like small town feel. Even though they filmed it in California, like you really feel like you're in the Midwest in a small town. Everything is so wide open, and even the sidewalks with the concrete and stuff. It's so... I love the vibe. It's so good. They picked such a good location for this.
It just feels like everyday suburban America, which makes it relatable. I mean, to us, we grew up, in neighborhoods, but most people can relate to that vibe. It's a small town and then you're like, at the end of the movie, like, oh, this can happen in our neighborhood. It's genius, like the location. Like we said in our Black Christmas episode, that movie created the tropes and everything of the kind of suburban, but Halloween just perfected it.
Yeah.
And it just, like the setting alone, perfected these tropes. And I think it was an excellent decision to have it set in that middle town, Haddonfield, America. I wish Haddonfield was a real town. It is a real town in New Jersey, because that's where Deborah Hill was from.
I'm glad we're bringing up Black Christmas. I don't want to stay on Black Christmas too long, but you do mention, and if anyone hasn't listened to our Black Christmas episode, we recorded that. It was around the Christmas time,
Before
right?
last Christmas, yeah, last year.
Before last Christmas. So check that episode out. It was quite a while ago, but I think it was a good episode. It's just like you said, Halloween perfected it. Halloween does everything so much better than Black Christmas. And I gave Black Christmas a great fucking score at the end of that review. But like Carpenter just, it's not even a notch above. It's like in a different league. It's in a different stratosphere. You feel those vibes in Black Christmas, but Haddonfield, like there's no comparison. It's so much better than what came before it. That's why it's such a quintessential movie.
It's the quintessential horror slasher movie, and they like I said, I feel the vibe of that street every time she's walking down, and Tommy Doyle runs up, and she knows she has to drop off that key because her dad's the realtor. And you don't want her, like Tommy's right, like the boogeyman lives in that house. Don't go up there.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, no, I'm good. Like it's all like the mythology, that building, and he doesn't even know that John Carpenter probably didn't even know the mythology that he was building in this original for the whole franchise. Obviously he didn't want a franchise, but it's just the little nuggets and all of like the mythology. It's just so good. The boogeyman, he's the boogeyman. I love the shot when Laurie walks up to the house and she drops the key, and then you get that little jump scare of Michael just popping out and breathing at her, and in that moment he's like, oh, I found my prey. I found my next who I'm gonna stalk the rest of the movie. It's so good. I love when she's walking down the street and she's like, I wish I had you all alone, just the two of us, but she is alone with her and Michael. Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect. It's perfect. It's perfect. So good. I love it.
I want to know the poor people that were supposed to see the house later that day.
Yeah, who the fuck's gonna go see that house?
Yeah, especially after these murders. I'm assuming they didn't buy the house. I mean, we know eventually, depending on what timeline you go on, eventually the house is occupied.
Well, even in Halloween 2, they were trashing it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was the same night. So yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I love the introduction to Laurie, and I love how they choose to introduce her with a kid, Tommy. It just has something special about their connection too.
Yeah.
So obviously, yeah. What do you think about that?
No, I get that. That's a good point that you brought up. She's the all-American girl. She's got a bunch of books in her hand. She's going to school. She's helping out her dad. She's really nice to the neighborhood kid. You find out that she's his babysitter. She's going to see him later on tonight, and that it's Halloween. It's great. Can we just talk about Michael and him stalking her on the street? Because this is one of my favorite shots. This is really the first shot that's like, every shot is iconic, but this is the first like iconic shot that like everyone remembers. It is so well done, and just the brilliance of John Carpenter. We get the POV. It's like an offset POV, right? Because we see Michael in the foreground, and then obviously we see Laurie walking away. Right. He's following her. But Carpenter, dude, I mean, he holds...
just say that every 5 seconds.
I know.
Carpenter, man. Carpenter.
He holds this shot the perfect amount of time. Yep. If it was 1 second too short or a couple seconds too long, it would take you out of it. But he holds it just long enough to where you get those creepy vibes and you feel unsettled. And this is why I say they don't really make movies like this anymore. He really is able to let these scenes breathe and take these stalking scenes to another level. Movies nowadays, especially slashers, it's like there's not a lot of stalking. It's like bang, bang, bang. You maybe get those iconic shots, but they don't hold long enough. And all of a sudden you're on to the next scene. And you're like, wait a minute, like what was that? And you don't really sink into the shot. And he just holds it so perfectly. I always think about this shot in particular in terms of like his direction, how perfect it lingers, and then it finally cuts away, and you're like, oh my god, that was creepy. That was so creepy. Yeah.
The movies these days are missing that. It's okay to take a breath and have the suspense. That's what makes your movie effective, is a suspense. And they just think, we just want to slash here and there, which I do. I love movies just with slashing kills too, but there's something about that slow shot of him just not going right behind her, but keeping enough distance, but still stalking her. It's eerie. Mm-hmm. And the way he shoots it, it's just, she doesn't know that there's someone literally stalking her behind her. It's scary.
And I like you said, I
so
like both types of movies.
Me too.
I think this is just a credit to Carpenter because this is really hard to do. And I think that's a lot of the reason why most, movies don't pull it off. And if they try, they fail. It's just, it needs to be so on point for you to get that feeling that it's just really hard to do. So I don't blame movies for not doing it or not doing it successfully. It's just, we're talking about the GOAT here and the OG GOAT, it's like, it's
easy to get a jolt out of a quick kill. But when you want to build the suspense and just show the tension building, that's where the skill really comes in.
So I touched on this before. How do you feel about the whole Jamie doesn't really, we see her normal life, but she's being stalked instantly? I really like that, how Michael is just there from the get-go.
Me too.
I mean, I know you like it, but do you want to talk about it?
I like that we don't have to do the whole go inside her house and see her having breakfast like we do in the Rob Zombie movie. I mean, again, no shade. I love all these movies. Mm-hmm. But I like that we just get introduced to this girl who, her dad's asking her to do him a favor on the way to school, and we're just instantly jolted into it. Mm-hmm. And that we know that it's just going to be, this girl's going to go through hell on this Halloween night, this Halloween day. And I just like that I don't need a background for everybody in every single movie. I connected with her right away, that she's just trying to get to school. She's obviously a well-to-do girl just trying to get to school, and this fucking creep is stalking her. I don't need a whole background on Laurie for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We get the background of Laurie naturally through her interaction with her friends.
Yeah.
I don't need it forced in my face, her home life.
Exactly.
It's organic, man.
And not to, we're not shitting on other movies. There's nothing wrong with setting up your final girl that way and showing her in class and her normal day to life. But, it's so intertwined beautifully that even when we see her in class, Michael's outside the window. And she sees Michael for the first time.
Talk about
standing outside. Standing outside his car, just staring at her. She gets jolted back to reality. Her teacher asks her a question, and then he's gone. The car's gone. So it's oh shit, was that her imagination? She's thinking what's going on? What the fuck was that? That was weird. But yeah, he just intertwines Michael's presence throughout Laurie's entire existence in this movie. And like you said, we don't need to know about her parents and stuff. All we need to know is that she's a young kid in high school. She's a babysitter. She's got friends. She's a sweetheart. She's a do-gooder, and she's being stalked. And we instantly feel for her. And that's all you need when it's done correctly. Okay, so we're on the same page with everything, but I'm glad we were able to talk about that a little bit. And I love even the classroom scene, the theme of what they're talking about. I believe the quote is "Fate never changes." Yeah, fate never changes. It's just so beautiful. It's so chef's kiss.
It's not shoved in your face. It's just subtle, and it's just take what you want from that. It's so it's so good. It's so good, so good, so good. Oh, and that conversation comes back in H2O, and I fucking love it. But anyway, let's keep going.
Yeah. So then we get
that classroom scene. But let's just harp on that shot of Michael outside the window and Laurie looking out. So fucking good. It's iconic. She looks out, she sees him. She looks up, she sees him again. She looks back, and he's gone. It's just it's almost like he is a boogeyman. He is the boogeyman.
Don't say it, because I want to save this until we're done with our review, before we do our moments and stuff. Do you have a favorite shot of Michael in this movie? Because everyone has their own. And there's so many of them, and we're going to talk about them throughout this review. I have one too, and I love how everyone has a different one, and nobody's wrong either.
No,
it's that's
because
how
they're all
perfect.
perfection.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. So,
but I do have my favorite shot.
We have the sidewalk shot, and then we have this shot with outside the classroom. I think those are the two biggies so far. I don't think we missed any in terms of favorite shots. Right up, yeah, yes. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much like you said, there's no fat on this movie. Yeah.
But I know we're not doing scene by scene, but we do have to note that Loomis on his way, first of all, his fucking job sucks. No one believes him that Myers is driving on his way to Haddonfield. He's already fucking there. But Loomis does find a dead guy on the side of the road, missing clothes. So obviously that's where Michael got the overalls. And we'll find out soon where he got the mask and rope and knives and shit. But again, it's just so no wasted time. That quick shot with Loomis, finding the body, boom, move on. But it just builds, man. It's just a whole movie of building. And then we're introduced to Laurie's friends, which they're iconic in their own right. Linda and Annie Brackett after school. I love their dynamic. I fucking love it.
Me too. Yeah, I like it too. It's
they're
simple,
iconic.
but it's like you said, credit to Deborah Hill. It's realistic. It's very realistic.
This is really where she came in, I think. Yeah.
You know, we weren't teenage girls, but you know,
Right.
it still feels realistic, even though we can't explicitly.
And I like how they all
have.
have their own personalities, but you can believe that they're all the same. They're different, but you can see how they're friends. They would be friends,
Yes,
in my opinion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, Laurie is definitely different than the other two, and that's what kind
100%.
of catapults her to our final girl. Like, you know, but
Right.
it's,
Annie's a smartass.
I never questioned it for a second.
No,
yeah.
not at all. And Linda's like, a little bit of the promiscuous cheerleader type. And I just like, they're all different, but you all kind of like, they're real life. They could be real life girls. It happens. And they're all friends. And I don't know. I like that. I like the way they even go back and forth in the scene when they're walking home. I just love the shots of them just walking. I think that's even beautiful. I'm just walking down the sidewalk, dude.
And it's like, where's Michael? He's around here somewhere. What's going on? Like, where is he? Is he behind that tree? Is he coming around the corner? Are they going to run into him? It's so beautiful.
I just love how we have a minute shot of them. Like, Laurie's like, shit, I forgot my chemistry book. And Linda's like, who needs books? I always forget my books. Who needs books? We don't need books. I just laugh every time.
I was actually just about to say that. It's one of my favorite Linda moments, because in this moment, this is when Michael turns the corner in his car. Yep. So you're focusing on Michael and Laurie noticing Michael, but in the background you just have Linda talking about, I don't have this book and this bag and this book. It's so great, yeah.
Who needs books? And then we get the iconic, they think it's the neighbor, Mr. Riddles. That was his name.
Annie thinks it's the neighbor. Yeah, it's like
the creepy 8-year-old neighbor.
Like, do you see the guy? He's got a mask on. Like, what are you talking about?
I forget that. And then Linda's like, I think he's cute. And then Annie just like, hey, jerk, speed kills. And then Michael just fucking slams on his brakes. And he holds it. He just stays there. He's so creepy. And Laurie's like, you're gonna get us fucking killed one day, Annie. And like, yeah, bitch, you are. And then he just drives off. But he pulls over. He pulls around on the side of that road. He's gonna get out. It's so good. I just love how, Linda leaves and then Annie's chit-chatting, looking for her keys or whatever in her bag, and Laurie looks up. And this is, again, the next iconic shot.
This is another big one.
It's a biggie.
Probably bigger than the first two, in terms of, like, more people really remember this one even more so than the other two.
Right.
I know people that love the first two, but
every time I go by a shrub this big, it's all I think about.
Yeah, people visit this location. They take photos. I would love to visit it and take a photo. It's kind of it's.
So she looks up and she sees him just slowly stand in front. He's just standing next to that shrub, and then I was like, "Hey, Annie!" And then by the time Annie looks up, he's gone. And Laurie's like, he was behind the shrub, the guy you just yelled at. And then I just love how, I also love Annie's, like, she's a sassy, fearless bitch. I love it. I really love it. And she's just like, all right, subtle, isn't he? And then she goes to look. And then she kind of fucks the Laurie. She's like, oh, Laurie, dear, he wants to ask you out. Come here.
And Laurie's
so
like, what the fuck? Yeah. She's so
okay.
Cool. Like, yeah.
I love that whole scene.
I love how a lot of these iconic shots are daytime shots. So we don't get the nighttime until the end of this movie, but they're still so iconic, and they're some of people's favorite shots, and they're in the middle of the fucking day, and it's scary. So it's like really hard to do that,
John Carpenter. I mean, that doesn't happen often where you get scared of him in the daytime in the later sequels. You don't really get daytime scenes in a lot of the other sequels, but the original did it a lot.
Yeah, most of the movies, I would say, in the daytime. Yeah. So, I don't think I'm jumping around too much. We go back to Loomis, and he goes to the graveyard, right?
He's going up to that's coming up, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to, did you have anything you wanted to
shut that
talk
out
about
quick? Well, I just love, that when they go, I love the whole concept of Michael taking the tombstone.
Okay.
It's just, I love the slow reveal of, you're like, oh, which one's this? And Loomis already knows that that plot. He knows who the plot is when the guy's looking up. He's like, oh, these damn kids, they did it again. But Loomis is like, oh, fuck, the kids didn't do it. Michael took Judith's tombstones. And of course, the guy's like counting down. He's like, oh, Judith Myers right here.
Yeah.
Boom. We know. I mean, Loomis knows, man. So fucking good.
Loomis, like I said, Loomis is, all business. The guy tries to tell him this like crazy story about this dude with
which
a
I love, by the
or
way.
whatever.
Which I love.
And we don't get to hear the rest of the story. Loomis
I know.
cuts him
I
off.
wanted to hear the ending.
Yeah. He's like, "Where are we going?" I'm like, "Loomis."
But
like,
he's all about business, man. That's what I love about Loomis.
I
He's
know.
like,
I love it. I love it about him.
I need to do it. Yeah.
It's
I want to
like
know the end of that
Loomis
story.
is all of us when we're like listening to a story we've already heard from somebody and we just want to shut him up. We're like, all right, like, what are we doing? Yeah. And can we just talk about how tiny Judith's grave is? Like, what was that? That was the smallest grave I've ever seen for a full-grown woman. I mean, she was like a teenager, but she wasn't like a little kid.
They probably had a budget, man. They had a budget on the size of the
they
grave
probably
they
did
could
it
afford.
like last minute, like take that real quick. We got to film this before sun.
But yeah,
sundown,
dude, that shot again. I mean, that sequence again. It makes you be like, yes, Loomis, you're not a stupid character. Like all these horror movies, like he's on it, dude. He's on it the entire movie, and as he should because he's aware of what Michael is capable of. So I love the contrast of Loomis is in the know and Laurie is clueless. She doesn't know what's about to happen. That's why I love that there are protagonists in this movie because you have the flip, the inverse for both of them.
Yeah,
and I think
keeps
it's
cutting
beautiful
between the two too. And I like you said, Loomis is you trust him because he brings up that Michael hasn't talked in 15 years. Loomis hasn't got him to speak one word, and yet still he knows exactly what Michael's gonna do. Mm-hmm. So, like, Loomis knows his shit. He knows that he knew that Michael was going to go to Judith's grave because, he stole the tombstone, and he knew 100% he was going to Haddonfield this entire time. So, the fact that he was able to figure that out without Michael ever saying a word to him is just like, wow. Like, Loomis is
again, to
badass.
his credit, he never kept it to himself. He alerted his job. He went, he was with the cops the rest of the movie. Like, it's not like he's not doing everything he should be doing. He's doing everything and more.
Yes, and they allude to the fact that he's been doing that since way before the events of this movie. So he's been on their case for 15 years pretty much, or for 7 years. I guess he says for the first 8 years he was trying to get through to Michael, and then the last 7 years trying to...
I know that monologue by heart.
Yeah. I'm trying to not misspeak because I don't want people to attack me. So yeah, it's 7 years he's been. Yeah.
But I want to go back to, because this is again another iconic shot after Linda leaves, and it's Annie and Laurie, and then Annie's like, all right, see you later. Obviously the shot when Laurie like walks into Brackett and we get the iconic, it's Halloween, everyone's entitled to one good scare. Excellent line of dialogue. Brackett's a little creepy though because you knew you were walking into her. Like, oh, Laurie dear, sorry. I'm like, that's a little weird. But anyway, when she eventually goes back to her house, this is terrifying when she looks out her window. And the sheets.
I forgot
iconic,
that's
dude.
now. Yeah, that's another one. And
it's just
I've heard
he's
people
just
say that
there.
Was the scariest shot of the movie when they were
It
kids.
is terrifying.
It
terrifying.
is. Mm-hmm.
That's what that's all I think about when I see people. Like, I know in Once in a Blue Moon you saw people who do that, like hang to dry their clothes or towels or whatever. That's all I think about is Michael's in the sheets. Michael's there.
I talk about Carpenter. We're gonna be talking about it for 2 hours, but what makes this movie a little bit different than I'm just thinking off the fly here. A lot of movies, especially nowadays, when we get those shots and then it cuts back. He's gone and he's vanished. He's done. He did this with the shrub scene. You actually see Michael walking away for a split second. So he's not like teleporting in our eyes. And I think he does this with the sheet scene too. You kind of see him walk behind the trees like for a split second. And I think that's very important in how creepy it makes him because he is just a dude. He's not some like supernatural guy that just like disappears out of nowhere. But I think that's also
doesn't show it. It doesn't show it too much, where you can also think like, is he the boogeyman? Did he just vanish? I like how there's that because you don't know. That's what goes into the legend of Michael Myers. So again, you're right. It's
a split second
at the perfect time.
Yeah, it's perfect. I know. Yeah,
because she looks back right away. You're like, oh shit, he's gone. Again, this is like this is already the second time this has happened to her.
Yeah.
In a span of a few minutes. She's like, fuck. And think about that. She's like, I'm home alone now. Like, did this guy follow me already to my house? He's standing in my backyard looking, it's terrifying. And then she gets the phone call and you think it's breathing, but again, he's so smart when she hangs up and then calls back and it's fucking Annie chewing, bitch. Gonna give Lori a heart attack.
Yeah, who calls if they're not ready to talk on the phone?
I know,
Like,
that would annoy me to no end. But I just love how, obviously Annie's like, I can pick you up, I can drive. And I just love the shot. It's just like the last, like, I think one of the last happy shots you see of Lori. She's carrying that fucking gigantic pumpkin, waiting on the side of the road to get picked up. I don't know. I just love the shot. I just wanted to give her a hug in that scene. It's like she's such a good babysitter, bringing a pumpkin to carve with Tommy.
Yeah.
It's like,
no, I definitely agree.
Lori.
Yeah.
But then I love this sequence because even again everything counts with Carpenter. We're just like, okay, like Annie's picking Lori up, but no, Michael's following them in that car to their destination, and it's just you see the shot of him behind them enough, like far enough but close enough to keep on their ass, and it's just, of course they don't notice because they're teenage girls, like, you know what I mean? They're chit chatting, they're gossiping, they're smoking pot. It's just, you see people these days, fucking everyone's distracted. They're not gonna know. They're into themselves. They're in high school. It's just it's perfect, dude. It's perfect.
And you talk about themes and stuff, like not shoving it in your face. Now that I've overanalyzed this movie, you can kind of take this as like a little cheeky, but Don't Fear the Reaper playing while they're driving and he's behind them. I think it's perfect. It's thrown in there, but
that's been a staple
not
throughout the
shoved
franchise.
in your face. It's such a perfect choice. It's so good. But as you watch it more and more, you can kind of just you can laugh at it a little bit. Like, oh, I can't believe they threw that.
But I think it's
in there.
I know people can be like, oh, Don't Fear the Reapers, but like it's clever, dude.
It's clever, yeah, it's definitely clever. I'm not bashing it in any way, but because it's not.
And I love that
it's not obvious. It's not shoved in your face. Yeah,
and it's been featured again throughout. I mean, I know it was in the Rob Zombie movies, and I just I don't want to get into other movies, but I just love how the franchise ended. For now, it's ended with Don't Fear the Reaper. Oh. Chef's kiss.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, so we get the whole Loomis meeting the sheriff scene, which is a pretty important scene.
Well, and, it's important that when Annie and Lori pulled up, that the sheriff told them, someone, or Annie's dad, we should say Annie's dad, Brackett, he told them, like, someone just broke in, they stole a mask and some knives. I was like, that's important. It's not nonchalant. But Loomis says, talk about Loomis, because this shot coming up is so good too.
Which one?
When Loomis is, well, I love when Loomis is at the scene and then Michael is such a fucking he's so stealthy with that turn.
Michael's safe driving behind Loomis. I think it's so great.
He's
a better driver than 80% of people on the road. Like, I love Michael's driving. It's so fucking great. He stops completely at the stop sign. He's looking both ways. He's making sure he's not going to hit anybody. And he just zooms past Loomis.
Sure. Yeah. He's staring at Loomis. Says, when is that fucker going to turn around? I'm going. He's the smoothest driver. You're right. He's the smoothest driver of all time.
Yeah, he is. I think of that song, Smooth Operator. Yeah.
Oh.
And I know people make fun of the fact that Michael can drive. I don't find it a plot hole at all. I mean, Michael has been transferred to so many different facilities. He's been in vehicles. Michael, he's like Loomis said, he's patient. He studies. He's waited for this night for 15 years. He would have learned how to drive through watching other people. So I don't buy into, how does Michael know how to drive?
Are you really going to critique that?
I didn't need to, when I first started driving when I was 16, I didn't need to, have a crash course.
Dude, I drove my dad's truck around the block at 11. It's like you can drive if you really want to.
Yeah, it's, if you have good hand-eye coordination, it's not like some crazy... But I just love how he's a better driver than most people are that have a license.
Well, literally.
Yeah.
What do you think about the whole setting of the rest of the movie? I love how Annie and Lori are across the street from each other. I just think it's perfect. That street.
And I talked about this before, how Haddonfield is so open and with the wide streets. they're across the street from each other, but it feels like a mile, dude.
Yes.
When we get into it, it feels so far away, but it doesn't feel far for Michael. Like Michael is like, you know, a hop, skip, and a jump away from Laurie at all times when he's in the house across the street. But when you see those shots, when you see, you know, Tommy looking out the window, it feels so far away. You don't have that anymore. Like everything's so built up, even suburbia, like houses are on top of each other, and
I know
the fact you have the big front yards and the wide street, it's perfect. And I love how it's, like you said, they're right across the street, so they're always within sight lines. Yeah, no, it's great.
It's just shot so well because, like you said, they're across the street, but there's so many open spots like in between them that you're like, oh, which spot is Michael in? Obviously that's done intentionally, but it's just like, yeah, where is he? And I just love how he chooses, you know, after Laurie goes in and Annie pulls up, she goes in, he pops out behind that bush. And I just love how Michael's like, I'm going to deal with this first so I can get Laurie to myself. It's terrifying. Terrifying. I love the choice of him going to Annie right away, like going to that house and fucking with that. But he stands across the street to make sure Tommy can see him, and Tommy can hype up the boogeyman to Laurie even more. So by the end of the movie, Laurie's like, oh my God, it was the boogeyman.
So this is another iconic shot. You have Tommy looking out the window. That shot with the house and Michael standing like right on the side of the house is so perfect. And poor Tommy, man, like just gets gaslit most of this movie. Like there's no boogeyman. Like, dude, not only does he see that, but later on he sees Michael carrying Annie's body into the house, and nobody believes him still. It's like, dude, man, I would have been.
Oh, dude, I even love the show. We didn't talk about it, but just to go backtrack a little bit, I love this. I really, really love the sequence of Tommy at school with the bullies. And, you know, they're like, you know what happens on Halloween? It's like, yeah, we get candy. It's like, oh, Tommy's so innocent. Like, no, the boogeyman comes. The boogeyman. It's just obviously iconic. Then I love when, I don't know if it's Lonnie, one of the kids runs out and Michael grabs him. But then he just chooses to let them go and he stalks Tommy. It's so, it's so good. So good.
Yeah,
I love that
it's
shot.
Lonnie. He grabs Lonnie. He lets Lonnie go, unfortunately. Fucking Lonnie. And then, because his sights are on Tommy, like you said, and he starts walking the fence line with Tommy, this pure, sweet, innocent kid. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because we could go shot by shot with this movie. They're all iconic.
No, I know. I just wanted to give it, because something about that scene just like gives me life. I don't know. I like it because, you know, Tommy's just like, he just wants to enjoy his candy and he doesn't want to get tormented by this boogeyman, but he's gonna. But yeah, dude, I think that it's really smart that it's through the view of Tommy in that scene that he sees Michael, because Tommy's the one who keeps bringing up to Laurie, you know, the boogeyman. Which is why I really wish that Tommy had more of a role in kills, but whatever, we'll get to that. But yeah, I love how it's all through him and how he's the one almost building up Michael's legend along with Loomis and his monologues. It's really smart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Go ahead. Yep.
But then, I mean, the rest of every single shot, we're gonna have to talk about every single shot of the rest of the movie because I don't know how else to go around it.
Yeah, we're in the third act. It's now nighttime, so we switched to night. Like we're already in the nighttime. We can talk about, you know, Loomis, Annie. I think Annie, her death happens before we get Loomis at Michael's house, right? We get Annie's death. That whole sequence.
Yeah.
Paul calling her so stuck in the laundry. Yeah. And that's cool. So intense.
Also awesome babysitters. Annie's making popcorn and watching horror movies with Lindsay, and Laurie's like carving a pumpkin and shit. It's just like, what? These are all-timer babysitters right now. I know Annie doesn't want to be there, but she's still like fucking. I would be like, great, yeah, we can watch horror movies for 6 hours. Hell yeah.
Yeah, and really, people think Annie is like this, you know, stereotypical slut or whatever, but it's Paul that calls and convinces Annie. He's like, hey, you know, he's supposed to be grounded, but his parents are gone for the night. Come pick me up. It's like, fuck you, Paul. Let her do her job, you know? She wasn't planning on having you over.
Well, she does. I mean, she's like, well, you got to come pick me up. She's like, no, just come over here. He's like,
yeah.
You know, come pick me up. She's like, but she does. She's like, you know, let's
like,
stop talking about these things and get down to doing them.
Yeah, I know.
She wants to get down to doing them now, too.
Yeah.
But she is nice enough. She's not like, Lindsay, I'll be right back. She's like, you know, you want to go hang out with Tommy Doyle? You know, let's go. Yeah. I know, you know, I mean, I like Annie. I really have a soft spot for Annie. I do.
Oh yeah, no, she never puts. She's never a bad babysitter, even though she wants.
The only thing I don't like is with the dog. She doesn't like the dog, or the dog doesn't like her because she's like too abrasive with the dog, and she lets fucking the dog goes outside. This is the I know Nolan. We were talking before we recorded that I don't like one scene, but it's not that. I mean, obviously, I don't like animal deaths in movies, but it's just so well done because the way you just. I mean, it's really not nice, but the way you just see the dog sliding down. It's so fucked up. So fucked up. He took care of that dog quick.
I wanted you to bring this up. I wasn't going to bring it up. I didn't know if you wanted to bring this up in the episode, but it's I think the reason you have a problem with it so much is one, you love animals. I love animals too, but most movies just do it, and it really doesn't add to the movie. And we were kind of talking about this before we hit record. You know, it's purposeful. You know,
right?
You get the dead dog in Michael's house that he was probably eating the dog. Loomis says, like,
Loomis at the house. I think Loomis might have arrived at the house before Annie's death. By the way, I think it might be kind of I can't remember. Yeah.
I can't remember which one comes first.
I know,
but yeah, I think you're right. I think him and Brackett go to the house first.
I love how you brought that up though, because it's Loomis just like they found the dog. He's like, oh, he got hungry.
He got hungry. Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah.
So it's just so.
But yeah.
But when he's
fucking
barking at
Annie,
Annie,
she's
go
ahead.
I hate it. I like how because everything you say makes me think. So I'm sorry, but I jump in. But the dog's barking, and Annie thinks that the dog hates her, but the dog is barking because he senses Michael.
Yes.
And I just love when it goes out, the dog is like, all right, it's time to fucking go. But Michael's like, yeah, it is. And it's just fucking, it's scary. And then Annie's like, oh, guess he found her friend. I'm like, bitch, go look for the dog outside. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's the family
guess
dog.
She's not too familiar with animals and pets because that dog is crying out. He's whining.
But that was a whimper.
That was a whimper. Yeah. And I love how she's on the phone with Lori and she's like, I'm about to get mauled by the family dog.
Lori's just cracking up.
Like, Jesus.
I was like, all right.
Yeah.
But I do like how she spills the butter on her, and then again another suspenseful scene of her, because I guess back in the day you had to do laundry fucking out back, separate. I guess in certain houses you had the laundry out, but she gets stuck, and she gets locked in because Michael did something. I thought that was when the first time I saw him, like, oh, this is her death scene. But he's so smart. He waits. Carpenter is like, all right, let's have this suspenseful scene.
Because you get Michael in the doorway.
Right,
so Michael's there. Like, he's right there. Oh, yeah. It's not like he's still in the front yard with the dog. He is stalking her at this point. So
he's playing with her.
You're just waiting for her to die, but she doesn't die right away. It's like,
which is
so
smart
creepy.
Because we might think, oh, okay, like she made it out of that. Like she might make it to leave. She might just leave to go to Paul's, and then that might be the exit of the movie, and we'll just deal with Lori and the kids. But it's just so smart how she goes back to the house. She goes to get the key. Oh, so good. What do you think? Let's just get to her death scene. Let's just go. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I wanted to talk about this right away too. I like it a lot. I like how she goes to the car. The car is locked. Or a note to that it's locked.
It is important
she
because we got
back
some
in the house.
moments coming.
Michael was not in the car at this point. It's pretty safe to assume. So if she had the keys on her, she probably could have escaped. Possibly. I mean, nobody escapes Michael, but you know what I'm saying. She probably could have gotten in the car alone. She goes back in the house, and again, it takes its time, dude. You see the shot of her rounding the house, back in the house, and like
she's singing to herself.
It's so easy for someone who edits the movie to just like quickly edit her in the house, grabbing the keys, and then back to the car. But because it's not so quick, you as the viewer get a sense of time, like time has passed because she had to walk around. So then when she gets back to the car, she doesn't unlock it. It's already unlocked. The door is unlocked.
Yep. She just has her brain up. She just like automatically goes, as you do, like she automatically goes to open it, and it's unlocked this time. But she doesn't think, she doesn't register in her head. Which again, it's that happens, dude. We do that.
Of course.
And she's excited to go get Paul. She's like, no keys, but please not. Like she's just like ready to go pick up her boyfriend and hook up. She's not thinking. She's a high school girl, which again is smart. But I just love how you brought up, like, specify the locked versus unlocked, because it's just so integral to like in our heads we're watching, we're like, oh fuck, it's unlocked now. This is not going to end well.
Yeah, and
but even as an audience, you might register that because you just go with the flow. You're with Annie.
Exactly. I'm not so sure I caught that the first several times I watched this movie as a kid. You know, because you're so like, where's Michael? You're thinking about Michael. You're not noticing those small details, and the fact that they took the love and attention to detail to do that is just so beautiful. So
He's
she
genius,
gets in the
man.
car and the window's all fogged up, and she's like,
Which
"What
I
the
love that
fuck?"
touch. I love that touch.
Yeah, and that's what
She's
kind
just
of
gonna
makes
wipe
her
it.
hesitate. She's like trying to wipe it with her finger. I'm like, that's like not how you wipe a car window. Yeah. Michael's like, I gotta take care of this girl right now. So
He pops up in that back seat. Oh, it's so fucking good.
And it's not an instant kill.
No, it's prolonged.
It's prolonged, and because Michael can kill her right away, but he chokes her and makes her.
He really
suffer.
He just like chokes her for a bit before he slices her.
For like a few seconds.
It goes on for like, I would say the choking
5
goes
seconds or so, 10 seconds
I think
almost.
he might hold it, yeah.
He holds it, yeah, and then he finally does he have a knife in his hand?
He
is
slits
it a
her.
knife?
Yeah, he slits her. Yeah,
I know he slits her. It's hard to tell what's in his hand.
Yeah, and again, I like that though. It's not too visible.
No, it's not visible. There's a huge blood splatter.
No,
or
there's
anything.
This movie is not blood in this whole movie, really.
Yeah.
But I just love after he slits her, she slowly goes down the horn. And I also think it's scary. I don't know what you think. She never knows who her killer is because she never sees anybody. It's just something in the back seat. It's terrifying.
She never even gets spooked at all. Like you said, she's totally oblivious pretty much the entire time.
Right.
Like poor Annie. She's on her way to pick up her boyfriend. Gonna have a
Came
great
out of
night.
nowhere.
Came out of nowhere. Yeah.
Dude, she was at the height of her excitement for that night, and in a second, she just ended up getting killed instead when she was the happiest she's been the entire movie in that shot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's so fucked up. I love Annie. I don't care. I love Annie.
It's almost like, like you said before, Michael he wanted to isolate Laurie, so he took care of Annie. I like how you phrased it. He took care of Annie. He doesn't play with Annie. He plays with us, and he plays with Annie behind her, but he takes his time, but he doesn't stalk Annie the way he stalks Laurie and even Linda. He stalks her a bit too.
He plays with Annie for his own enjoyment, not even like she doesn't even know. He's like, I'm just doing it because I'm fucking around.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's a iconic death scene.
And the horn is great. It always makes me so unsettled. Like just that loud horn right after a kill.
And
like as a kid, I was always going like, over.
It's just.
I know.
And it's almost like you expect in a movie like this. I know it's because Annie's across the street, but you really expect like Linda and her boyfriend to go first, and then Annie, and it's just like the order of it is a little bit twisted out of whack too. But I think it's smart that they, he took care of Annie. Because when you first introduced that trio, if I had to bet money the first time I watched, I was like, oh yeah, Linda's a goner first. It's going to be Linda first. When they're first walking down that street, but she's not. She's actually the last victim of the movie. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Love it. Do you want to talk about Loomis and the sheriff back in the house? I know we did a little bit when they're walking through the house. And I mean, Loomis gives that one of the best pieces of dialogue in cinema with that monologue. This is where we really get to know where he I met this boy 15 years ago, and he goes, the whole, I'm not going to do it verbatim because we don't need to, but I do know it by heart. But I just love how it ends. Like, I realized there was, what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil. I'm like, ooh, I get chills every time he does that monologue. I mean, dude, Donald Pleasance, he delivers in that line. That so fucking good. Line is just so good. I love it. And Brackett's kind of like, dude, like, what? Really? Like, what's going on, man?
Yeah.
Still doesn't fully believe him yet. Still doesn't fully believe that he's that much of a threat.
I always give Brackett a ton of credit because you see so often in these movies that, the police don't take, victims and stuff seriously. But Brackett sticks with Loomis. And then we get to the next sequence with them that I wanted to talk about. First, you have Loomis scaring Lonnie and the boys. It's
hey,
fucking
Lonnie,
great.
Get your ass away from there.
It's the happiest you ever see Loomis in all the movies.
His smirk
he has that
makes me
fucking
so
smile. Like he just he got some sick pleasure out of that. Like he wasn't just doing that to protect the kids. It was fucking great. So
I like what you said about Brackett though. I like that because Brackett usually the cops. He doesn't dismiss him. He's along for the ride.
And this is why I wanted to get to this scene. It's really where it nails home. Brackett comes back to the house. And he's like, listen, Loomis, we've been going around town. Right. We found some kids doing pranks. There's really nothing going on. Like, I don't want to be out here all night if I don't have to. But again, Loomis is fucking steadfast. He's no, he is here. You are going to have a massacre on your hands, like, tonight. Or I think Brackett says, like, are you saying that there's going to be a massacre? And Loomis is like, there could be or something. I don't know. Like, you probably know it word for word. But but to the sheriff's credit, he says, okay, I'm going to stay out all night with you, and I don't want to be home if something happens. So you got to give him credit, because even though he doesn't fully believe Loomis, he's doing his job as sheriff of Haddonfield to protect the town and really, patrol all night, just to make sure everyone's safe. So yeah, kudos to him.
I love how Brackett patrols the streets and Loomis stays at the house, because that's when he scares Lonnie. I just love how, like, that's because Loomis is the one who eventually, as he should, he's the one who discovers the car. And then when Brackett comes back, he's like, oh, fucking shit, he's here. Like, you go around the back and I'll go around the front of the house. And Brackett's like, oh, shit, this might be legit now. This is fucked up now. It's just so smart. I love how Loomis is the one to find the car. I'm like, oh, shit, here we go.
And, like, dude,
so good.
Like, I love Loomis, but turn around, man.
I know.
The car's sitting there the entire time. He's so hyper fixated on the house. But
Which
even the sheriff,
I
get, but, like, even the sheriff startles him. It's like, that could have been Michael, man. Like, come on, dude. You need to be aware of your surroundings. I think if it was a small nitpick, I wish that he was a little bit smarter in that sequence, and he was, like, a little bit more. But I understand why they did it. They needed him, like, close by for the last sequence.
I love the line when he's like, Sheriff's like, you're telling me these kids are all lined up for a slaughterhouse? And he's like, death has come to your town, Sheriff. I'm like,
yes.
Ooh. Yes, it has. It's so... Dude, Loomis has the lines in this movie. Every iconic line is Loomis.
He does. Oh,
it's so good,
for
dude.
Sure. Definitely.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Oh. So then we transition to... Because early in the movie, Annie told Linda that she can bring her boyfriend Bob there and they can, have their fun. So obviously Linda and Bob roll up, drunk beer cans falling out of the fucking car, which, fuck you, you're littering, guys. What are you doing? But, they're the typical two, like, party animal drunks of the movie. But I like Linda too. She's a good vibe. I met PJ Souls. She's awesome. But anyway, they go in the house and it's obviously pitch black and they see that no one's there. Annie's not there, but Lori calls because she has Lindsay, who Annie brought over. She's like, I just called and found out what time Lindsay has to go to bed. And then I love how, we didn't even talk about the whole totally of it all.
Linda calls
totallys.
Lori. Linda calls Lori.
Linda calls Lori. She's like, hey, like, what's
ask
going
where
on?
Annie is. Yeah.
Yep. And then that's when Lori's like, I just want to know what time, Lindsay's supposed to go to bed. She's not here. And
sorry,
then,
I just don't want to hear, like, angry comments. Like, it was
Linda
who called.
But we didn't even talk about, I love how Linda, like, first of all, totally, like, she says totally so much throughout. If you take a shot, every time Linda says totally, you might die of alcohol poisoning in this movie. When I met her, she was like, people usually have me sign, see anything you like, and then totally underneath. It's just, I'm like, oh, that's fucking beautiful. Like, can you please sign that for me too?
Yeah.
But she says totally, like she's totally gone for the night. Mm-hmm. I love her. So good. But anyway, so then they're excited because, like, Lindsay's gone for the night. I don't like the scene though when Bob's like, first I rip your clothes off, then we rip Lindsay's clothes off. I'm like, Lindsay's like a little girl. Like, why did you say that? That was weird to me. I don't understand that part.
Does he say Lindsay, or I thought he said Annie?
No, he says Lindsay. It's weird. That's really weird.
Oh, that is really weird. I'm
like,
maybe my brain just processes Annie because I just assumed he said Annie.
But like, I'm like, that's a weird line of dialogue to have in there, but okay.
Yeah, and Linda like went with it too. Like,
she like laughs it off. I'm like,
really? That's so funny. That's like a, what do you call? That's like a weird, because I always assume he said Annie. And that's why Linda was
Isn't
like,
that weird though? Like, why was that line of
dialogue?
Yeah,
that is kind of weird. Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Lindsay is like a child, like literally a child, but okay. I guess you're gonna get what's coming to you, so it's all right. I'll let it slide. But and then they go up to the parents' room. And they just, I'm like, this, like, Annie's gonna have to wash the sheets. Like, what if, like, I just don't understand. Yeah. Like, what are you doing?
I don't really get their logic. I guess because they're drunk and high, but like, Lori tells them that what's her name is gone for the night.
No, she says, let me know when Annie comes home so I know what time to put. Like, if you hear from Annie or she comes home, like, have her call me so I know what, like, Lindsay's bedtime schedule is.
Yeah, so they find out. we find out that Lindsay is going to be staying at her house. So she tells Bob Lindsay's gone for the night, but
Right.
we already know that her parents are going to be home around 9:00. So
Right,
we
I
don't
think
really
it-
have all night to like, but they just make themselves right at home, man. It's
Oh yeah. Dude. They go right up to they go right up. They're like having the beer and shit, like taking their
First
beer and
door on
shit,
the left.
everything. Smoking
Yeah.
in the I mean, I know back in the day that's what you did, but they were like just smoking in the fucking bedroom and shit. But
Mhm.
I mean when they're having sex, it's just so creepy how they zoom back and you just see Michael just there watching. It's
Mhm.
fucking weird. It's creepy.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
get I mean Linda
I mean,
also
it's
has
totally-
her iconic lines, yeah.
Totally shades of Judith. Yeah.
Totally
shades of Judith. And that scene,
So
it
good.
comes full circle, you know. I always looked at her as Judith. You know, she's the blonde, the pretty blonde. She's having sex. This is like Michael's Judith 2.0.
Right.
One of the things I wish they changed was I wish it was Linda on the bed with the gravestone and not Annie, because I do think
really?
Linda resembles Judith a little bit more, just
Okay,
with
interesting.
all the
That's
circumstances.
interesting.
It's like a small detail that I wish they did to kind of make it full
Okay.
circle.
I like that it was
Um,
Annie because to me Annie had more of an impact in the movie than Linda, but that's just for me visualizing.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying too.
Yeah. No, I think it
But,
would have been a cool touch for that.
But we obviously after they have sex, Bob's gonna go get a beer, and we get the iconic "See Anything You Like" shot. So any like young male like that was I love that scene when she did that, and then she's like, go get me a beer. And this is again an iconic death scene. It's his signature. What we come to understand as his signature move throughout the rest of the franchise. When Bob's getting the beer, he hears something in the closet, and he opens one, and then he goes, "Hey Annie, you asshole, I hear you." And then Michael just fucking. I jumped I do specifically remember the first time I saw this movie, I like screamed at this scene. Like I jumped out of my seat when he fucking turns around. He just pops out of that closet and holds him up. And then he stabs Bob, but it's like he stabs a knife through, like to the point where he just fucking stays there. And then we get the iconic, the first time in the franchise, the first time in the movie, Michael's head tilt. So talk about iconic shots when he's just admiring his kill. It's just, dude, it's so fucked up. It's so good.
This
I
is
love
the
it.
one
Love it.
big jump scare in the movie, I think.
Yeah.
We
Along
get
with him
like
popping
Annie's
out the
death.
house. Yeah, and the house earlier.
Yeah,
when
we
he,
get
like,
little
pops out,
ones,
yeah.
but this is like I said, when I
It's a
you
jolt.
said, when I was little,
Yeah.
I would jump every single time. It's with the sound cue and everything. He comes straight out, and yeah, he's Michael's proud of himself, man. He's like, wow, look at that. He does like 4 or 5 head tilts before they, like I said, Carpenter takes his time with the shot. You just see him just tilting his head back and forth, like, wow, it's almost goes back to. It almost goes back to that, like, the way Loomis describes him as, like, that animalistic behavior.
Yep.
He's killing dogs. He's eating dog. He almost is like a dog, tilting his head. Like,
Dude, the lighting in that
admiring.
scene alone is just, the lighting, or lack thereof. The dark, it's just so perfectly lit, that shot. You just see him in that shadow. You don't see the full white face. You just see him just tilted and admire. It's just, so good. Then you're like, fuck, good luck, Linda, because your time's coming.
I'm glad you brought up the lighting. The lighting
yeah.
in these nighttime shots is so perfect. Movies get it wrong so often. It's either too dark, you can't see anything, but the blue hue, it's so perfect. It's my favorite kill. I have it in my background. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the little Bob out back there with the knife. It's my favorite kill in the franchise. Not to spoil anything, but yeah, it's so iconic. I love it so much. And Michael just standing there. You get the jump scare, and then you get the prolonged death of him lifting him up. So you kind of get both. It's so good.
I love how you see the
So
body
good.
go limp too. His like feet go down at the end. You just see
Yeah.
when the body goes limp. It's just, it's so messed up. It's so
Yeah.
good. And then obviously the next shot is also, we keep saying iconic, but when the door opens, so creaks open, then Michael does like to play a little bit. I love how he puts the sheet on, has the it's like, Michael, you're playing.
He cuts the
It's
hole
so
in the
goofy.
sheet. Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to do it right away. He wants to enjoy it, which is why Michael is fucked up. He's the OG. He's the killer. He wants to enjoy the lead up. He likes the build up too. It's awesome.
He makes Linda make the first move too, because Linda's sitting there for a while, come on, where's my beer? Like, come
Right.
on, are you gonna say anything? He does not move an inch.
No.
He does not move a muscle.
He waits for her to get flustered. She's like,
yeah,
fine,
exactly.
fine.
He's
Don't give me my beer.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so good. And then he waits
and
until
that
she
leads her to
calls.
call. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
This shot's awesome too. This is the first time we get the dun on the shape stalks theme too. This is the first time we get that in the entire movie.
Yeah. Okay.
So fucking good. So good. I love that theme. It's so good. But she calls Lori asking about, whatever, have you heard from Annie, whatever, blah blah blah. And then Michael slowly and I love how he shoots it as Linda's back is turned. So you're just, I can only imagine this in the theater. You're just yelling at her, like, fucking turn her. Again, let's talk about tropes and creating tropes. You're just screaming, like, turn around, girl. Fucking turn around. He's coming up behind you. And then he takes that phone cord, because back in the day they had the cords, and he just wraps it around her. And again, it's not a bloody death, but it's vicious, because you just hear, Lori hears her friend choking to death, but Lori just is like, oh, Annie, is this you and your famous chewing? Like, she doesn't know what's going on. Is Annie back? Are they playing a trick on her? It's Halloween, It's just, it's horrible because Lori doesn't know what's happening, but her friend is on the other line, literally like gasping for air, dying. It's just, It's
At first, you
awesome.
think it's like moans, like they're fucking with her, and then it turns into Lori could tell, wait, something's not right. That's not normal moans as she starts to choke, and it's so perfect. Yeah, it's great.
And
Another
he gets
great
more vicious throughout to the point where the sheet actually comes off, and he's really like choking her and going at it, and his breathing, you can hear his breathing get more aggressive. And I just love how he picks up the phone and he's just listening to Lori breathing. He's like, oh, I can't wait to get to you, girl. So good. So good. Oh.
So now we get to one of my favorite shots of the whole movie, and I've been saying this. It's when Lori walks across the street to the house. This is when I tell you, when I say they don't make movies like this anymore, dude. Her slowly walking across the street, she takes her time, and Carpenter takes his time, man. She's outside. It's cold. It's windy.
Leaves are blowing.
The leaves are blowing. She's getting closer and closer to the house, and you're just yelling like, "Don't do it!" And like you said, if you're in the theater, it's like, but the scene plays out so. It's not like terribly long, but it's way longer than any shot would be nowadays. They would just quickly, splice that together if her walking across the street.
They would quick cut to her being in the house already. They would quick cut to her already being in the house. They wouldn't show her walking across the block.
Yeah. And that's why this movie has the atmosphere and the themes it does, is because it takes its time. So it's one of my favorite moments because she's outside. She's so vulnerable. She's out in the open, in the middle of the street, walking across the front lawn. It's so good. It's so good. Oh.
Well, dude, because she's walking into the ultimate danger right now. Like, she's slowly walking into it.
You also know they set it up perfectly, too, because when she gets off the phone and she looks across the street, she sees the lights go on and off, but it's on the first floor. So Michael at this point has already made himself downstairs. So he's probably outside by now. So you're just, like I said, you're just screaming at the TV like, what are you doing? Go back, go back, go back. Oh, it's so good.
Because and it also shows you sympathize with Lori because you're like, she's something weird happened. She's just going, like, she's putting the kids to bed. She's like, all right, I'm going to go check on my friends because I care. It's just like, oh, you really like, you're like, damn, Lori, like, we are you. We love you. It's just like, oh, she's doing, like, she's a good person and she's doing all these good deeds and she's just about to walk into the nightmare that will haunt her for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So, she got a couple images of Michael early on, but she doesn't see him for the rest of the movie until the very end. And she almost like puts it out of her mind because even when you have the scenes with Tommy talking about the boogeyman, he saw the boogeyman outside, like, Lori doesn't get creeped out at all. She's totally back into like babysitter mode. She's not creeped out at all. And now that she's going over to the house, like you said, she's walking into the nightmare. So it's just she's going to get hit in the face with it. But, yeah. So do you want to talk about her walking into the house, the bedroom? Like you said, the Judith Myers, the Tombstone.
So
yeah.
So she walks into the house. And I just also love the fact that all of that happened and she saw Michael earlier because you can see, again, I praise Jamie Lee Curtis a lot, but you can see, and when she's walking across the street and when she first walks in the house, you know that like she forgot about that, but in the back of her head, that image of him is still in there. So she's already a little shaken up, but she still chooses to go and check on her friends after all this. I love her. She's one of my favorite characters. But anyway, she goes in. Obviously, the lights don't turn on. She's yelling for them. She's like, if this is your idea of a prank, whatever, it's done. It's over. Come on, guys. And then she's, slowly checks the downstairs. Yeah, meatheads. She's slowly walking around the downstairs, and then, she's going to go up those steps. And then she goes up, and she slowly opens the door. And then you get that, like, blood-curdling, like, terrified. She puts her hands over her face. She's horrified at what she sees, but we see Annie and Judith Meyer's tombstone on the bed. Iconic shot. And she's like, holy fuck, my friend's dead. And then she backs up into the wall, and then fucking Bob's body swings down, and then she goes to the other corner, and the cabinet opens, and she's Linda's body. So she sees her best friends
all
mutilated.
Them, or two of them, plus Bob, all at once. Yeah.
But she sees, she's like, holy, my friends are dead. They've been murdered. So she's obviously she's in a heightened sense of panic and paranoia and shock. So then she slowly, she leaves the room, but she's like against the wall. And then this is, if we're gonna bring up favorite Michael Myers shot, this is my favorite shot of all time. Not of all time. It's my favorite shot.
Okay. So he's just okay. So this is the favorite shot. Okay, so you kind of spoiled it.
This is my favorite shot. Yeah, this is my favorite shot, dude.
Okay.
So when she's leaning up against the wall, and it's just the way talk about lighting, dude. This should be shown in film class on a daily basis on how to, talk about the scene. She's sitting there crying, like in shock, and you see there's a doorway next to her, and it's pitch black, but slowly something appears white, and you see it's Michael and his mask. And it's the best, my favorite shot of all time. It's so fucking terrifying because again, she doesn't know what's behind her. And he slowly appears like a boogeyman. He slowly appears. Oh, yeah. I don't know, dude. What do you love? Is this your favorite Michael Myers shot in this movie?
It's not. It's not. Okay. Unfortunately,
okay.
I have a different one, but I can't disagree with anything you just said. I mean, it's probably my favorite. Not my favorite one shot, but it's my favorite moving shot, if that makes sense, because he moves into the light. It's so perfect, and it happens so subtly because you don't see his mask at first, but once you do, you realize that he was there the whole time. Like it's not like he walked forward, and does that make sense? It's just the way the camera
just appears,
lights
dude.
it.
He appears.
It literally appears. It's my god! But it's not. But you could tell it's not like obvious that they use some lighting ring, and all of a sudden there's like light on him. It's so subtle, and it comes into the light so perfectly and slowly. Oh man, it's giving me shivers just talking about it.
Up because he waited in that doorway because he wanted her to see her dead friends first before he'd attack.
Oh yeah,
it's just like, dude, it's so good.
He's almost like, I did this for you. Look at this, you are my prey and my target, but I did this for you. Because I want you to be terrified. And it just goes back for when she's singing in the beginning, I want you all alone, just the two of us. It's like, this is the two of them now. This is the rest of the movie. It's the two of them. It's, John. Dude, it's so well written. It doesn't get enough credit for its writing. It's so good how everything comes back into play. But she gets upset, and obviously she's starting to walk to go down the stairs, and that's when he kind of misses where he wants to stab, and he gets her arm, the iconic arm slit, and then she turns around and does her fucking glorious Jamie Lee Curtis scream, which is, girl's got lungs. She falls down the stairs, and then she looks up, and I love the shot of Michael like going to the top of the stair, the way he turns, and he starts like that. Then you get the shape, the dun, and then she gets up. Clearly, so now she has a slit arm. She fell down the steps, so her legs are fucked up. You're just like, girl, get the fuck up, get out of that house. It's so suspenseful, dude. When she runs to that door, but he has the fucking rakes strapped up against it, and she locks the door, and he's fucking punching through it. You're like, girl, break that glass. And I love how Carpenter, he tortures us, and he tortures Laurie. He waits like the last minute to have her like fucking smash it open right before Michael gets her to get out. I can only imagine, dude, that again, I keep saying it, but I want to transport to opening night in 1978, and it's watching the fucking audience fucking scream like, Laurie, get out of there, break the glass, get out. Yeah,
I love this shot, and I love the whole shot of her running across the street, and Michael doesn't come up behind her. He takes his time but he almost like torments her because she gets to the front, and then he probably must know. He's like, oh, she fucking dropped the keys when she fell down the stairs. And then she's like, the keys. And then she has to fucking wake Tommy's ass up, who takes up his fucking sweet old time. She throws the plant to the top story of the house, and Tommy's like sleeping. She's like, Tommy, open up, it's me. And then you just see behind her Michael walking across that street. And you're like, oh, fuck, hurry up. Hurry up. Tommy, hurry up, please. Dude, talk about suspense. That scene gets me every time. I love that shot. Again, I like how you say when Laurie first walked over, how she was like kind of like calm, curious, walking over, to like 5 minutes later, she's sprinting across that fucking street, and she's like, Tommy, let me back in. It's just like that girl's life changed in a fucking couple minutes. Oh, it's so good, dude. It's so good. But I also love the touch that John Carpenter made before she goes back to the house, that she's doing what she should do. She's screaming, help me, going to neighbors' houses, but because it's Halloween, everyone thinks it's a prank. It's just, dude, it's just all genius. But Tommy lets her in, and she locks the door, and then, this is when, after this point, Laurie does make a few mistakes, but I buy it because she's a teenage girl, and this is not an everyday occurrence happening to somebody. That she's in a heightened sense of fear right now. But she locks the door. She tells Tommy to go upstairs and lock the door at Lindsay. And she goes to call the police, but the phone line, is cut, obviously. But Michael knows how to get in. I love the shot of just the wind blowing that curtain. And you fucking know he got in the house to that side window right away. So what do you think about the whole chase from Laurie from the bottom of the stairs across the street? What's your whole take on this whole
It's so brilliantly done, because we get the first few kills, and we've established that Michael, once he gets his hands on you, you're a goner. You're dead. There's no fighting him, really. So the whole window scene the door scene where she's trying to break the glass, it's so anxiety inducing, man. And he holds it again, the way he takes his time and he holds this shot. Other movies do this, and it's like almost unrealistic. It's like, how did the villain not, they don't have a sense of time, and they kind of like hold it longer than it needs to, and it's unrealistic. The killer should have gotten to them by then. Right. But with this, it's a fine line. With this movie, he does it just long enough to where it's believable, but it's also like at any second he can pop into frame and grab her. And it's every second that goes by, it's like, he's closer and closer. And it's just, like I said, it's his sense of time. It's so brilliant with that scene. And then when she runs across the street, and when he's walking up to her and Tommy's going to the door, it cuts between Michael and then Tommy like waking up and walking to the door. By the time he unlocks that door, Michael is like a foot behind Laurie. Like, right. That because he took his time with the scene, and you get a sense of the pacing of Michael and how close he is, and it never wavers. Like a lot of movies, especially like B movies, like you'll see the villain get close, and then all of a sudden it cuts away, and then it cuts back, and then the villain is somehow further away, and he's like not close again. It's like, wait, what the fuck? But it doesn't happen here. You know where Michael is at all times, even though you don't see him crossing the street the whole time. So when she does get through that door, you're like, oh, thank God, he was right behind you. And it's so good. It's so perfect. I used to this was so intense as a kid. I would get so much anxiety watching these scenes.
And Carpenter knows when to stop showing him in that scene. Like, he knows when the last moment when he's like, all right, after that, I'm not showing Michael. It's going to go back to Laurie the whole time. So we don't know how close Michael is.
He shows enough. He shows enough to where like where he is behind her, and then he stops showing her. And talk about Scream Queen. I love when she's running through the neighborhood. When she runs out of the house, she fucking bursts out of the house, and she's just screaming, goes to the neighbors. Those are my favorite screams in the movie.
Like, why won't you help me? Begging, like screaming, why won't you help me? Somebody help me, please. Her. It's just
to the neighbor's credit, I would be like, who the fuck is this psycho? I am not opening the door for her. Yeah.
But you just feel for her because this girl. Yeah. I'm like, oh fuck.
I know.
But yeah, dude, she gets in that house, and so does somebody else. So does Michael. But again, to her credit, she sends the kids. Her rest of the movie, her like job now is gonna be like, all right, I have to protect myself, but I have to protect 2 kids as well. So again, Laurie has a lot on her fucking plate for a 17-year-old. But Michael gets in the house, and she does huddle in front of the couch. She gets her knitting needle ready to go. And hey, you gotta
Yeah.
find a weapon. You gotta find anything you
Yeah.
can grab. I'll give her credit.
Yeah.
But Michael, I just love how everything stops, no music, and you just hear breathing. You just hear his breathing, and then he pops up from behind the couch, tries to get her, he misses, but then she gets a shot in finally. She gets him in the neck, and then he pulls it out and collapses, And to Laurie's credit, if Michael wasn't the boogeyman, someone would be down for the count for at least a bit if they got stabbed in the neck like that. So I get it. I get it. But she fucking doesn't take anything. She throws the knitting needle down, and then she goes upstairs. And I just love. Actually, this is the shot when you cut to Loomis and he realizes that Michael's car is here, and he tells the sheriff, and he's walking. He's gonna. You can tell that he's getting closer to Michael as well. But I love when Laurie goes upstairs and she goes, guys, Tommy, open up, it's me. And then she goes like, I killed him. And he goes, you can't kill the boogeyman. And then in the background, you just see something walking up those fucking steps. And he says that line, and they turn around, and he's just standing there again. It's like, oh, how perfect. Perfection. And then she yells at them to go lock up again. But Michael's just focused on Laurie at this point. But I do like how Laurie leads him away. Like, she doesn't go with the kids. In my opinion, that's a brave choice for Laurie. Because she knows that if she goes with the kids, he's coming for all of them. But she makes the kids go somewhere else, so Michael just comes for her. Again, Laurie, she's the scream queen. She's a final girl. But again, this is another. The rest of the scenes with Laurie, every shot's iconic. She goes into the closet with the hangers and locks herself in there. She does some cool shit with like rubber. She thinks of shit I wouldn't have thought of in that moment. She like rubber bands this shit closing all that. But obviously Michael finds his way.
All of it's in vain. Yeah, I mean, she tries to open the window to make it seem like she left the house, but Michael doesn't buy that for a second. He doesn't even go over to the window.
I know, I love that.
Goes right to the closet. It's so fucking perfect. Yeah,
but it's like Laurie, girl, he's gonna get in there, no problem, girl.
He's trying everything, but dude,
I know.
Yeah, it's like
the way he stabs that down. But again, like I would never think to do what she does with the hanger, like fucking unwire it and all that shit. Like, what? The girl. All right, I see you.
Yeah, she's a badass, and this is her badass moment. She grabs the hanger, and bro, the aim, what great aim, dude! Stabs him right in the eye with that hanger.
Yep.
I don't know if I would have been able to do that.
Enough for him to drop his knife too.
Yeah,
and then she gets that knife, and she goes up a couple times.
Injures him. Mm-hmm.
Which is the first time we see him in a vulnerable. Well, he's never really vulnerable, but she gets her licks into. She goes back at him with that fucking knife.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I love that. That's an iconic scene with her in the. Not only because it's scary, but it's claustrophobic because she has nowhere else to go. She's stuck in that closet.
Oh yeah, I mean, every time I watch this as a kid, I'm like, my girl Laurie's a goner. I mean, even when I know what's gonna happen, like, dude, that shot of him, another, a lot of people's favorite shot of him breaking through the closet and like hovering over his mask and hovering over her. Oh man, dude. Talk about larger than life. Like there he is. He's right there, and she has nowhere to go. Like she's a goner because, like I said, up until this point when he has you and he has you pinned and within arm's reach, you're a goner. So
I know.
This is what elevates Laurie to that fucking iconic final girl moment. This is her moment, and it's so great. I love it.
And you can tell that every time from when she went across the street to this point, every time she gets away, he gets more determined to finish the job and get her, because that's his ultimate goal, is to get her and kill her off. But he can't. He's like this close, but she seems to keep getting away with an inch of her life. It's so good. But she also, I mean, she stabs him, but then this is the scene. He drops again, and then Laurie, my girl Laurie, I love you so much, but she throws the knife down.
Yeah,
she doesn't keep that knife. I'm like, oh, girl, come on. So she throws the knife down, and then she does go and tell the kids, she's like, open up, it's me. And then she tells them to go down the street to the Mackenzies. So the kids run, and the kids do their part too. They scream. They're the ones who alert Loomis to what's just going on, because they leave screaming, help, help, help. And Loomis is like, oh shit, there's something going on in that house. Let me go check it out. But talk about, I wonder if this is your favorite shot. But talk about iconic, when Laurie's, again, her back is to Michael. Again, she thinks she killed him, so I'll give her that. But she's slowly like, like getting herself together and walking, but you just see in the background Michael. He just does his iconic sit up.
Yeah.
The slow sit up. It's so fucking good.
I'm not quite sure. It's hard to defend Laurie in this moment when she goes to the kids. You don't quite know what she's thinking. I guess she's supposed to just be exhausted because she has the kids run. She has the kids run, but it's like, why not go with the kids at this point? Because if you're not going to go with the kids, the only logical thing is she wants to stay in the house to make sure Michael doesn't follow them. But then it's like, can you like not turn your back to him then and just like make sure he stays down? So I'm not quite sure what her plan was there. Not that like I'm criticizing her. Yeah, no, exactly. I'm not really
the weight of the
criticizing her.
Like, dude, she's exhausted. She's terrified. She saw her. I just think everything is she's done. Like she's like, I'll catch up. I'll be there in a minute. Like, go ahead, do as I say now. Go.
Yeah, and she just like collapses in the door frame. Yeah. It's hard to really defend her other than the fact that she's just an exhausted 17-year-old that just witnessed her friends die and she just escaped death pretty much. So
what do you think
about
Michael's
death is behind you? Oh, it's fucking great. It's not my favorite shot either, but it's I'm saving that, but it's fucking awesome. Yeah, it's so
and cool. I just love how when she's slowly walking, he just gets up slowly and he slowly starts walking towards her. It's like, oh, yeah, Laurie,
it's like in sync.
Laurie.
I know.
You're screaming again, like, Laurie, just go.
Dude, this whole third act, you're just screaming at Laurie, man. It would have been so cool to see this in theaters opening night.
I know, dude. I know.
It's like, oh, man, it's so good. It's so good. Yeah, no, it's iconic. I love that shot, too, but it's not my favorite.
Okay. So he starts strangling Laurie again. He gets to her and starts strangling her. But Laurie, she does do something smart. She goes for his, no one has ever tried that. She goes for his mask. And she kind of like brings the mask up so he steps back, and then as she's doing that, he lets go of her. Loomis comes up the stairs, and that's when he shoots Michael 6 times. 6 times he shoots him, and Michael falls off the balcony. And I love the shot of when Michael falls, Loomis goes up and sees his body laying there, and then we get the iconic Laurie was like, it was the boogeyman, and then Loomis like, as a matter of fact, it was. Oh, so
talk about determined Michael.
What a way. Dude,
talk about Michael being determined. He gets shot by Loomis, flies backward through the door, and instead of hiding or trying to retreat,
right on that balcony,
stands his ground, dude. And he's like, I'm not fucking scared of anybody. Yeah, I want to get you guys. And it takes 5 more bullets, so a total of 6 times, as we all know. Shot him 6 times.
We know.
And yeah. For him to finally go over the balcony. Yeah.
But dude, after that line with him and Laurie, like I love how Loomis just looks back and he's gone. He's fucking gone. And you get that and then you just go back to Laurie. She knows by the reaction on Loomis' face. She just starts crying because she's like, "Fuck,
yeah,
fuck." And then, I mean, to end the movie, he usually movies would just end right there of him being gone, but Carpenter is John Carpenter. He's the legend. So we go back to all these iconic locations for the movie, and we just hear the breathing.
Yep.
And it gets louder and louder and louder and louder. And then we end in front of the Myers house, and the breathing just escalates, and then you cut to black. Oh, dude.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's a masterpiece.
It plays on the whole boogeyman aspect. Yep. He's everywhere at once.
Which is why this original is so special to me, because it doesn't answer anything. It answers no question. Michael Myers is the shape. He's the shape in this original movie. He's the shape. He's the boogeyman. And no other movie in the franchise handles that as well as the original.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. Wow, that was Halloween. We did it. We did it.
Yeah, we did it. So I want to talk about my favorite shot and why it's my favorite shot. There's a little more context to it than just the shot itself. It goes back to my childhood. My favorite shot, and we talked about it, is when the first time Tommy looks out the window and sees Michael across the street.
Excellent.
Him with the house. Yep. Fucking perfect. And the reason it's perfect is because from that point forward, you know Michael's out there. Every time there's a character that goes outside, I was fucking scared shitless for them. I was like, where is Michael? They're going to die any second. And it's so, he's literally, even when you know he's in the house, like he could be outside at any moment because you know he stalks outside the house. And that shot alone sets the rest of the third act up, especially the scenes outside. Like I said, part of why I love the Laurie scene of her walking across the street is because, you know, every time they go outside, there's something so exposing about the openness of being outside in the middle of the night. You know, it's one thing to be in the house and being stalked by Michael in the house. It's a little claustrophobic, but for some reason, every time a character was outside when I was a kid, my fear elevated, and I think it was because of that shot. I just love it so much. But every shot, all these shots we've talked about are equally perfect. So it's just my personal favorite because of the way it made me feel. But your favorite is probably my second favorite just because it's so beautifully done. Yeah. But yeah,
dude, every shot's perfect in this movie. Every shot.
I know you've said that. Yeah, we get it, man. We get it. No, I'm just kidding.
Everything is just amazing. It's just, I don't know.
All right. Yes, we did it. That is Halloween, 1978. Any other closing thoughts? I mean, we really don't have to do final thoughts on this because what more can we say?
Yeah.
We gave kudos to Deborah Hill. Shout out to Deborah Hill. Rest in peace. There wouldn't be a original Halloween without Deborah Hill. John Carpenter gets, rightfully so, all of the credit, but I feel like she is needs to get her flowers as well, and not enough people talk about her. So the shoestring budget, the fact that they were able to make, I know there's been a few documentaries and behind the scenes on this. I've watched a few things, how they were able to kind of put this movie together. It's just so special, and it just can never be replicated. Like you said, it'll always be your favorite movie of all time, and
yes,
that's totally valid because there's just no way to really replicate the magic that happened. There's a few times in history across all genres of movie where like things line up and things happen and it's like magic is born and it's just, you know, perfection. And this is one of those times for me and definitely for you. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I was really looking forward to this. I know you were too. Just talking about our favorite movie and all there is to love about it. Sorry I cut you off. Was there anything you wanted to talk about before we wrapped it up?
Every year October comes around, I just get so stoked to watch my favorite movie like multiple times throughout the month, and I cannot end Halloween night without ending with the OG. It's just the most special movie to me, an important movie to me of all time. There's no other way to describe it. This movie is me. Like, you know, everyone who knows me knows, Ant's the Halloween and Scream guy, but like Halloween, it's just my favorite movie. Everyone who knows, you can attest to it. Like, everyone knows. It's just, this is my movie. This is my favorite movie. So it's extremely important to me for nostalgic reasons, but also just from a filmmaking standpoint. It's just, like we've been saying, like, it's just genius. It's expertly made, and it's the reason why so many movies look up to it, and it's still paid respect and homage to this day. It's the reason why the franchise is still around to this day. I mean, just go back to the original. It's a movie that, like you said, it doesn't happen like this anymore. It's a masterful movie.
You're talking about watching it every October and every Halloween. I know you're a big physical media guy, and rightfully so. Physical media is awesome. But I just want to give a special shout out to AMC for always playing this movie growing up as a kid and this being on the TV. There's something special. I still watch it when it's on AMC, even though I own the DVD. And but there's something special about being on cable. Even though we get the commercials, it's almost like, other people watching it at the same time. And I always loved that as a kid, just watching it on, on cable, not watching the DVD, just watching it like, it's not real time, but it's like everyone's having this collective shared experience. Right. So shout out to all the networks, especially, AMC for showing this movie every year, every Halloween, and keeping it alive for future generations.
And to that, like you said, and to that point, maybe some 6-year-old is popping on Fear Fest and they're seeing the Boogeyman Halloween for their first time, and it makes them fall in love with the movie from 1978, which is a special feat these days when everything's at the click of their fingers, and it's like, oh, now they're introduced to the Boogeyman and Michael Myers, and that's why Michael Myers will never go away. It's going to be a circle,
and they will.
Someone will always find.
They will. This movie still holds up. It hasn't aged a bit, so they will. Yeah, we'll get a new generation of Michael Myers fans for sure.
Got to teach them kids well.
Okay, so let's get into our never split up moments.
Okay.
I have a couple that I could choose. I'm going to let you go first. I know we tied in the poll.
Okay.
I think I won the last time before that, so I technically have the choice, but I'm going to let you pick first,
Okay.
I think, on this.
Ugh. Okay. I don't want to do it, but I think I might have to. And I think I might have to go call out my girl Lori.
Oh, I didn't know if you were going to do it. I didn't know.
I
if you were
didn't
gonna go
want
with
to.
Lori.
I was going to go with somebody else, but I'm just like, it's just, do not throw down the knife. Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't
know.
want, she's my second favorite character of all time, literally.
I
There's
know.
only one person who beats her out a tiny bit. But, you know, Lori does make up for it throughout the franchise. But, and again, I've been sticking up for her in this movie that, you know, she's a 17-year-old going through all of this.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
it's just like, after the first time when you stab him in the neck and Tommy tells you can't kill the boogeyman and he comes up the steps and then again she stabs him with a hanger and a knife, you just would think that he didn't die the first time. You would just hang on to that knife just in case. But immediately she throws it. She doesn't only throw it, she throws it like near his body. So like he has access to that if he sits up, and he does sit up. He chooses to strangle her instead, but I'm gonna say Lori throws the knife down after the closet scene. It's just, girl, hang on to that, girl. You're gonna need that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that is just, I mean, it's obvious, but it is my pick.
That's a
and
great
I love
moment.
my girl, but you know, you don't throw the knife away.
The fact that she got him with the needle the first time, she got the best of him technically twice.
Right.
You got to take advantage of that second time.
Right.
Not only not throwing the knife, but stab the fuck out of him,
Right.
dude. Like, take his mask off and stab him. Do something.
She not only threw the knife away, but she threw the knife away and then kept her back to him until he got to her again.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no,
So, yeah,
that's the moment. That's
I
the
know,
moment. I didn't know if you were gonna have the balls to pick Lori, so I wanted you to go first.
I wasn't going to, but I was like, I really don't want to call her out, but I'm just like,
yeah.
I have to.
I would have picked this. I would have picked this if you didn't pick it. So, but
I was gonna pick
you,
Annie, by the way. If I was gonna pick Annie, if I didn't pick Lori, by the way.
Oh, really? I'm not picking Annie. So, what was your second choice? What was Annie's?
It was going to be that Annie didn't realize the door was unlocked the second time. When you get in a car when there's fog, it's usually a hint that there's something going on, like there's breathing, like something happened. So it would have been Annie, just because those are the two characters I care about the most in the movie. Because I'm not worried about Loomis. I know he's making it out. I really cared about those two making it out. So that's why I ended up in my brain saying I have to give it to Lori, because she really could have died, and if that happened, I would have been devastated. So that's why I just went with her, because she really put herself in some vulnerable positions.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I'm actually going to go with Linda, and we talked about this during the review. Turning her back on what she thought was Bob, but the fact that he doesn't move a muscle, something's going on, dude. And like you said, if you're watching this with a crowd, you must be screaming at the screen, like, "What are you doing? Turn around!" As he's getting closer and closer to her. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Linda. I love Linda. She's great. She's a great character. I like her just as much as Annie. You kind of feel a little bit more connected to Annie.
I mean, I love them. I love the three of them.
I get that. Yeah, but I like them kind of equally. I think Lori is kind of just so far ahead of them, obviously. And then they're both lumped in together. But yeah, her turning her back and calling Lori without investigating what the fuck's going on with Bob. Even if it is Bob, maybe Bob snapped. Maybe something's going on with him, and it's like, what are you doing? I know she's supposed to be like the blonde, stereotypical little ditzy, but
if it was me, dude, I would be like, "Fuck you," and I would just rip the sheet off him to see who, like, I would go right up in there, rip it off. Yeah,
it's like she just totally dismisses him and then turns her back to him. It's like,
that's true.
You got to figure out what's going on.
That's right.
So I'm gonna go with that moment. My girl Linda. Yeah.
And again, this is the movie that really introduced a lot of the never split up themes and moments. So these are good. These are very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Okay, cool.
This is going to be anticlimactic.
Get to our scores. I'm pretty sure we might have the same score. I'll go first. It's a 10 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
It would be higher if it could. It's a perfect if it's a perfect movie, dude. It's a 10 out of 10. We just talked for 2 hours about it. It helped shape my childhood so much and loving horror movies, and especially the slasher genre. I have my big three. I don't want to spoil it because I have a feeling we might be covering our favorite horror movies of all time, like a list. so I don't want to spoil the other two, but this one is just a step above the other two for me because one, it's Halloween. Like you said, it takes place around Halloween, my favorite holiday. And two, it's a slasher movie, and I just have a soft spot for slashers. And all three of the movies, by the way, are 10 out of 10s for me. So they are like 1, 2, and 3 for me. But Halloween is going to be number one, and it's going to stay there probably forever, just like you. It's not my I don't know if it's my favorite movie, but it's definitely my favorite horror movie of all time. It's so perfect. And yeah, Michael Myers is my number one villain of all time. We went over our classic villain list. He still scares me to this day. I just can put myself back as like a little 8-year-old boy watching these movies and being terrified. I would watch these movies, go to bed at night, and just think that Michael was going to come get me. I mean, that's the effect these movies had on me. No matter how many times I watched them, it never got less scary as a kid. It's perfect. 10 out of 10. What's your score, Ant?
Well, this is my favorite movie of all time, horror or not horror. So it is a 10 out of 10 easily.
Yep.
Obviously it could be if I was allowed to go higher, I would. But yeah, dude, it's a perfect movie. It's my favorite movie. It just has everything in a movie that I love. It has the iconic villain, and it has the strong female protagonist. I mean, Laurie Strode is, like I said, is my second favorite character of all time. Jamie Lee Curtis is the Scream Queen. Dr. Loomis. I mean, you have all these older, wiser characters in other horror movies that try to be him, but there's only one Dr. Loomis, and they did it perfectly in the OG. The directing, I mean, this is my favorite directed movie of all time. Like we've been saying, every shot is just miraculous that they were able to pull. John Carpenter's able to pull it off with the budget. It's just, you can tell how much care was put into the movie, and that's what I feel like is missing a little bit these days. It almost feels like a corporate machine with a lot of movies these days, but this movie, there was so much care, and it was just, you can tell that he wanted to make something special. Even if he didn't know it was going to be a classic, he wanted to put his stamp on the movie, and it shows. It shows so much, and I love it. I love it so much. I'll never get I could watch it tonight, tomorrow. I could watch it every night from now until Halloween, every time get excited to pop it in again. It's nostalgic for me. My family grew up with this franchise and this movie. You know, it's very special. It's the reason why I fell in love with the slasher genre, which is my favorite subgenre of all time. It's just, nothing will ever beat it. It'll just always be near and dear to my heart. So I'm very happy we got to take the first crack at the franchise finally. And, you know, it's not going anywhere because we'll be back at it next week. But yeah, dude, favorite movie of all time. 10 out of 10.
For sure, definitely. I'm excited for next week as well to cover the entire franchise with our buddy Phil from Phil at the Movies. Let us know what you think. Is it a 10 out of 10 for you guys? If it's not your at least favorite in the franchise, then maybe keep your comments to yourself. No, just kidding. But yeah, everything you just said. I mean, John Carpenter. That's that's the
round
theme
of
the whole episode. Round of applause. Yeah. This was a lot of fun. This was episode 40, the original Halloween 1978. Please follow us on Twitter/X. We're going to post our Never Split Up poll there, as well as Instagram. It's at neversplituppod on all of those. We are also on Facebook. Please give us a follow on Spotify. If you listen to us on Apple, give us a follow. Give us a review. Leave a review. We love reading your reviews, and we read them on our episodes, so you can be shouted out on our future episodes if you leave us a review. And yeah, comment on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube. We're on YouTube if you didn't know that. And this was a lot of fun. Any closing thoughts as we look forward to our franchise rankings, Anthony?
No, guys. I just hope that everyone's popping in, the OG Halloween at some time for the next week. And make sure you guys get your lists ready for the franchise ranking, because we really want to get your feedback. I'm really curious. I'm just curious about your list and Phil's, but just in general, like our viewers, because everyone has such a passionate opinions on the rankings of this franchise. So get your list ready. Let us know what you think about our placement. Let's keep it nice, but we want to hear your thoughts on our list too. So get ready for next week. Do rewatches of movies you haven't seen, just so you can comment. It's because I'm gonna have some crazy choices, so I can't wait. Get your list ready,
for
guys.
sure. Get your list ready. I'm going to get mine ready. I'm going to do rewatches of at least 2 or 3 movies just to prep for my list, just to solidify my list. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But yes, this was episode 40. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in and listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week. And happy Halloween season. See you later, everybody. Bye.